Marin Kitagawa casually announced a cosplay event was in exactly 2 weeks, prompting a wave of panic to wash over Wakana Gojo. His eyes widened, sweat beading on his brow as he internally reeled. 2 weeks? I have to finish the costume in just 2 weeks. Wakana Gojo's mind reeled as Marin's words truly registered, the impossibly short deadline echoing in his head. 2 weeks. The sheer weight of the task ahead, making a complete cosplay outfit from scratch, suddenly crashed down upon him. Amidst the ordinary bustle of the subway station, Wakana Gojo's mind was anything but calm. The impossible deadline from Marin echoed through him, leaving him to wonder in a daze, I didn't hear that wrong, did I? Amidst the mundane commute, Wakana Gojo's thoughts were anything but, as he fretted, it still takes me forever to make a doll costume. His gaze dropped, a daunting realization dawning on him, an outfit for a person will take twice as long. No, maybe longer. Wakana Gojo's anxiety intensified as he grappled with the daunting task, fretting, honestly, this is my first time making one, and I don't know if it's even possible to get it done in 2 weeks. A wave of dark apprehension washed over him as the chilling thought echoed, what if? Wakana Gojo's face went utterly pally as sweat beaded on his brow, his eyes squeezed shut in dawning horror. I don't make it in time, he fretted, the weight of his impossible deadline crashing down. Amidst the jostling crowd, Wakana Gojo was utterly overwhelmed, internally screaming, HGH, AGH, AGH. I'm gonna lose my mind. As the slippery girls pressed in on him, Marin Kitagawa looked on, wide-eyed and flustered, letting out a small, surprised, as the chaos unfolded around them. As the Iwatsuki station sign came into view, Wakana Gojo's panic only mounted. What do I do? He worried internally, utterly overwhelmed by the chaotic surroundings. Wakana Gojo finally reached his family's doll workshop, a tired I'm home. Escaping him, met by a warm, hey, welcome back, from inside. Yet, despite the familiar comfort, his internal panic didn't subside, a desperate thought echoing, there's no time. Wakana Gojo nervously clutched the Yuzueya bag, his voice barely a whisper as he admitted, I went shopping. A mix of shyness and slight disbelief colored his tone as he added, with a friend, the hesitant words hinting at the profound newness of the experience for the quiet artisan. Wakana Gojo nervously apologized to his grandfather for being out so late, his gaze flickering as he quietly admitted he'd gone shopping, with a friend. At this shy confession, his grandpa's initial concern instantly melted into a wide, beaming smile of pure delight, eagerly asking about his purchases. With a soft SHWOP and rustle, Wakana Gojo carefully drew out the lovely leg stockings package from the Yuzueya bag, a tablet clattering beside it with a quiet flop. His nervousness lingered as these delicate items, intended for Marin's next ambitious cosplay, were finally revealed. The sight of the lovely leg stockings sent Wakana Gojo's grandfather reeling, his eyes squeezed shut as a wave of dizzy disorientation hit him. A stunned escaped his lips, reflecting his utter bewilderment at the unexpected revelation. A loud wham and bang suddenly echoed from the stairs, startling Wakana Gojo. His initial HUH quickly escalated into panicked shouts of Gramps, Gramps, as he realized his grandfather had taken a tumble. The loud wham and bang had led Wakana Gojo here, his mind undoubtedly reeling as the exterior of the hospital building came into view. Under the bright sky, the stark sign reading hospital loomed, confirming the grim destination after his grandfather's sudden collapse. Wakana Gojo sat lost in thought, his gaze distant, until the sudden sound of rapid footsteps, pad pad pad, jolted him. A woman with wide, surprised eyes burst into view, exclaiming OH, before rushing towards him with an urgent, familiar call, Wakan. In the quiet hospital hallway, a man offered a worried apology. I'm sorry, Miori-nichan. Miori-nichan, her gaze intent, disregarded his words to ask about the patient's condition. No. How is he? Upon hearing they've given him a compress, a soft escaped her lips, a subtle expression of relief. The man from the hallway offered Miori-nichan a sympathetic tone, Grandpa collapsing like that must have been a shock. Still processing the scare, Miori-nichan quietly confirmed, yeah, before expressing her relief. He banged up his back, but I'm just glad the damage wasn't more serious. The man from the hallway, his expression earnest with concern, assured Miori-nichan that he had ordered painkillers for her, gently adding, Take care, now. Still appearing a little dazed and worried, Miori Nichin quietly responded with a simple thanks. Miori Nichin burst in, a flurry of concern, exclaiming, "Don't you, what's up, me? I was worried about you," as Gojo Ji-chan, still a little wobbly and supported by an older man while thanking Wakana, greeted her. Her eyes brimming with worry, Miori explained she'd come to take him home with her, insisting their place was better for his 2-week recovery. Grateful yet still a bit sore, Wakana Gojo offered a humble, "Sorry for puttin' you out," but Miori Nichin quickly cut him off with a reassuring, "It's fine," before gently insisting, "You must be tired too, Wak-John. Come stay at ours tonight. Mom has a futon ready for you," which Wakana accepted with a soft, "Miori Nichin, thank you." Ever thoughtful, Wakana Gojo offered to bring his grandfather a change of clothes the next day, which was met with a grateful "sounds good. Thanks." As Wakana looked on with a slight sweat drop, his grandfather then turned to him, adding, "Oh, and Wakana." Though still recovering and feeling the lingering weakness, Wakana Gojo's grandfather stirred, his brow glistening with sweat. His voice, faint yet resolute, murmured, "My brushes. Bring me my brushes too," revealing his deep, unwavering dedication to his Hina doll artistry. Concerned about his grandfather's lingering weakness, Wakana Gojo suggested seeking an acupuncturist. His grandfather, grimacing slightly, seemed to consider it through his pain, murmuring, "Ow, not a bad idea," as Wakana nodded with a quiet, understanding, "Yeah, sure." Marin Kitagawa's wide, earnest eyes reflected her concern as she reacted with a sympathetic, "How awful." Understanding the weight of what she'd just heard, she realized, "So that's why you weren't here yesterday." Marin sympathetic, "How awful." Regarding Wakana's grandfather lingered, a poignant pause in their conversation as the towering school building stood silently against the sky. Outside, the quiet lines of a traditional building stood still, offering a brief, reflective pause in the flow of their conversation. The lingering echo of Marin's sympathy seemed to settle over the scene, marking a moment of shared, unspoken understanding. As Marin mentioned heading to check on her cousin, her gaze softened towards Wakana, who sat hunched with worry on the steps. "You can't help but worry, huh? I hope your grandpa gets better soon," she offered, her empathy clear. Wakana simply managed a quiet, "Yeah." In response, his downcast eyes reflecting his heavy heart. Leaning against the wall, Wakana Gojo closed his eyes, a small bead of sweat appearing on his temple. Marin's gentle words lingered, leaving him in a quiet moment of internal flurry, navigating a mix of nervousness and something warm. Marin's eyes drifted away, a quiet, reflecting her thoughtful concern. She couldn't help but worry about Wakana Gojo, seeing how much he was pushing himself. Marin's thoughtful concern bloomed into a burst of eager determination as she called out, "Gojo Kn. If there's any way I can help out, tell me." Wakana, caught off guard, watched as Marin continued, her eyes sparkling with sincerity, "I can cook, more or less, and stuff." As Marin's determined call reached him, Wakana Gojo looked down, a silent, hanging in the air. His gaze held a hint of surprise and uncertainty as he quietly uttered, "Kitagawa-san." Wakana Gojo, in his characteristic shyness, politely but firmly declined, "Thank you, but I think we'll manage." Marin Kitagawa's eager offer deflated slightly, her voice softening as she responded, "Oh, okay." Marin, leaning in with bright enthusiasm, practically bubbled, "I know. Let's swap line addies. It'd be good to be able to ping each other if anything comes up, yeah? Don't you think? Right?" Wakana, still a picture of shyness, finally gave in, his soft, "Yes. Thank you very much," conveying a quiet, overwhelmed gratitude. Marin's eager suggestion was abruptly cut short by the insistent ding-dong of the school bell. "That's the first bell," she noted, perhaps a little disappointed but still quick to act, prompting Wakana, "Let's go, Gojo-kun." Wakana Gojo sat quietly, his mind preoccupied with his gramps and the costume work he hadn't touched in days, while Marin Kitagawa stretched lazily beside him, lamenting the upcoming midterms she usually crams for. Then, turning her bright gaze to him, Marin asked, "Are you the type who studies for real, Gojo Kun?" Wakana's eyes widened in surprise at her sudden, direct inquiry. As the school day wound down, Wakana Gojo's thoughts suddenly veered away from his craft. A wave of dread washed over him as he realized, oh yeah, I forgot. And the crushing weight of, "We've got tests coming up too," settled in. Wakana Gojo's focus sharpened. Despite his duties visiting his gramps and studying, He knew he'd have to carve out time for Marin's costume. A quiet determination settled over him as he resolved to dedicate himself to the task. As Marin Kitagawa stretched leisurely by the classroom door, her gaze landed on Wakana, calling out, "Gojo-kun." Wakana, caught completely off guard, could only internally panic, wondering if he was totally screwed with the wig in hand. Startled by Marin's call from the classroom door, Wakana Gojo's flustered voice echoed across the school grounds, "Sorry." He quickly promised, "I'll be right there," as if rushing to meet her. A workshop tour, Wakana Gojo's mind echoed in disbelief, his eyes wide with shock. "You said?" The shy artisan found himself completely flustered by Marin's unexpected proposition. Still kneeling, Wakana Gojo confirmed to the excited caller that a tour of his shop was indeed possible, stating, "Yes, it is." A wave of relief and joy poured through the phone as the voice exclaimed, "Oh, thank goodness. My friend is interested in Hina dolls, and they've really been looking forward to it." They then tentatively asked if they could stop by tomorrow. "Oh, I'm sorry." Wakana Gojo blurted into the phone, his eyes wide and a visible sweat drop highlighting his deep embarrassment. He looked utterly flustered, his shy nature overwhelmed by the unexpected turn of the conversation. Wakana Gojo's excitement gave way to an apologetic, "Oh, I'm sorry," as the caller regretfully explained his shop would be closed from tomorrow for a company outing. His expression then dimmed further with a quiet, "Oh, I see." When the caller revealed their exchange student friend was leaving soon, making tomorrow the only day for the tour. Marin, understanding but a little disappointed, responded, "Oh well. Maybe another time." As she began to politely conclude with, "Thanks, Annie," Wakana suddenly cut in, a new idea forming, with an urgent, "Wait." Just as Marin's disappointment settled in, Wakana Gojo, still holding the phone to his ear, suddenly bellowed into it with a desperate hope, "Tomorrow is fine." A chance to make things right had just opened up. Marin's previous disappointment evaporated into a surprised, "Huh. Are you sure?" as Wakana Gojo, still holding the phone, confirmed the details of their meeting. With a relieved breath, he stated, "Why yes. I'll be available to show you around after 4:30 p.m. so." "Yes. Great. See you then." Overwhelmed by the incredible development, Wakana Gojo's knees buckled, and he slumped to the floor. "Heida," he whispered, a wave of profound disbelief and relief washing over him. Overwhelmed by Marin's surprising proposition, Wakana Gojo averted his gaze, his cheeks flushing a deep crimson. Drops of nervous sweat formed on his temple, betraying the shy artisan's profound fluster. Wakana Gojo's mind went completely blank, the weight of Marin's incredible proposition leaving him utterly speechless. Lost in a daze, all he could think was a bewildered, "Now what?" Wakana Gojo's mind spiraled into utter panic, the weight of Marin's proposal rendering him completely lost. In the void of his thoughts, he could only desperately wonder, "What am I going to do?" Marin's proposal struck Wakana Gojo speechless, his mind reeling into a sudden, overwhelming blankness as utter panic truly set in. The city lights began to pepper the darkening skyline, marking the quiet passage of time. For Wakana Gojo, the world outside was a blurry hum, still reeling from Marin Kitagawa's audacious, exhilarating proposal. The city lights continued to softly illuminate the quiet street as time moved forward, yet for Wakana Gojo, the world remained suspended. Marin Kitagawa's unexpected proposal had left him in a profound, internal blankness, seemingly unnoticed by the steady rhythm of the evening around him. Marin Kitagawa's gaze, wide and shimmering, seemed to absorb the distant city lights as a silent escaped her lips. In that moment, her usually vibrant energy gave way to a profound, unspoken emotion, reflecting a deep wonder or understanding sparked by Wakana. Marin Kitagawa stood outside Wakana Gojo's family shop, her initial hopeful expectation fading as she murmured, "I thought he'd be here after work, but doesn't look like it." Her gaze softened with an understanding hint of concern, wondering if he was still checking on his grandpa or perhaps taking his time after exams, but a quiet disappointment settled as she realized, "He hasn't read any of my messages." Marin Kitagawa, her eyes distant and thoughtful, finally broke the silence with a soft, worried murmur. "Gojo-kun's been looking real burned out lately," she confessed, her concern for Wakana Gojo evident in her quiet hope. "I hope he's okay." The stamina beef bowl's bag rustled softly in Marin's hand, a quiet sound mirroring the brief, thoughtful pause in her steps. After her earlier worries, a renewed sense of purpose seemed to settle over Marin, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Under the silent watch of the full moon, Marin Kitagawa sighed to herself, a tinge of disappointment coloring her words. Guess I'll eat by myself. With a quiet resolve, she decided it was better head home. Now, the silent staircase stretched upwards, a quiet path Marin now ascended, perhaps hoping to leave her disappointment behind. She likely headed towards Wakana's familiar workshop, where their shared passion awaited. Utterly exhausted, Wakana Gojo lay sprawled on his room's floor, having seemingly collapsed mid-work amidst the quiet chaos of his creative endeavors. Even in his deep slumber, the silent dedication of the aspiring doll artisan spoke volumes, a poignant reflection against Marin's earlier melancholy. The relentless hours of work had finally claimed Wakana Gojo, his consciousness fading as he succumbed to a deep, much-needed sleep. In that brief moment of darkness, the quiet of the room enveloped him. Wakana Gojo had finally pushed himself past his limit, his consciousness fading into darkness. Outside, the familiar Gojo doll's workshop stood silent and still, bathed in the somber quiet of the night-veiled sky. As Wakana's consciousness slipped further away, his vision blurred and tilted, the ceiling above becoming a disorienting swirl of lines and light. His mind, utterly spent from his intense effort, could only grasp at these distorted patterns before succumbing to darkness. The relentless effort had taken its toll, and as Wakana's consciousness wavered, the piles of fabric he had so diligently worked on dissolved into a blurry, formless expanse. The world grew dark, pulling him into the welcome embrace of exhaustion. Having pushed himself past every limit, Wakana Gojo finally succumbed. His body sprawled across the floor as deep unconsciousness claimed him. A scrap of fabric, perhaps a part of his latest endeavor, lay draped across his face, a stark emblem of his profound exhaustion and unwavering dedication. Wakana Gojo lay overwhelmed, pressing a weary hand to his aching forehead as a faint, "my head hurts," escaped his lips. His exhausted gaze reflected the profound toll his relentless efforts had taken on his body. Wakana Gojo's exhaustion plunged him into a haze of internal distress as his mind refused to cooperate, thinking, "My brain isn't working at all." A wave of sickness washed over him, making him feel, "I think I'm gonna throw up. I feel gross." Wakana Gojo's exhaustion was profound, his mind unable to find true rest as he silently lamented, "I haven't gotten any real sleep for a while now." The crushing fatigue had become a frustrating companion, keeping him awake even when he yearned for slumber. "I couldn't sleep even when I was lying down." Wakana Gojo lay hidden beneath his blankets, his eyes open and staring blankly, as if even in the quiet of his room, his mind refused to grant him the solace he desperately sought from his overwhelming exhaustion. He couldn't shake the deep distress that lingered from the previous day, keeping true rest just out of reach. Wakana Gojo's mind, still reeling from profound exhaustion, couldn't escape the heavy weight of his growing despair. The daunting truth echoed in his thoughts: the costume is nowhere near done. "I didn't make it in time." This crushing thought echoed in Wakana Gojo's mind, a stark realization that settled heavy and cold amidst his profound exhaustion. The simple words carried the full weight of a missed deadline, leaving him with a deep sense of despair. Wakana Gojo's somber smile was a mask for his regret, his thoughts consumed by Marin Kitagawa. Kitagawa-san was really looking forward to it too. He mused sadly, certain, "I'd bet she'll be sad." Wakana Gojo pulled the fabric over his mouth, his wide eyes a window to the storm of regret swirling within him. Thoughts of Marin Kitagawa and his failure weighed heavily, leaving him speechless with unspoken emotion. Wakana Gojo sat hunched over his current project, the quiet of the room offering no escape from the lingering regret that gnawed at his thoughts of Marin Kitagawa. Though his hands were still, his mind was undoubtedly elsewhere, lost in contemplation. The serene face of the Hina doll, a meticulous creation of Wakana Gojo, bore a subtle, quiet sorrow in its downcast gaze. Perhaps, in its delicate expression, Wakana saw an echo of his own deep regret, pouring his emotions into every painted feature. Wakana Gojo, his brow furrowed and slick with effort, cried out, "My brushes, bring me my brushes too." His eyes, though unseen, burned with a relentless drive, betraying the quiet struggle he poured into every detail of his Hina doll. Wakana Gojo's passionate cry for his brushes sharpened his gaze, but also stirred a quiet, longing thought: "How many days has it been since I picked mine up?" This introspection was fueled by a childhood memory of his grandpa, prompting a question from his past. "Grandpa, why are you taking your brushes on your trip?" Wakana's kind grandfather, imparting wisdom to a wide-eyed young Wakana, explained how even a single day away from one's craft can lead to rust. Now, as Wakana Gojo ruefully wipes his face, he realizes with a pang of regret just how long he's allowed himself to neglect his own calling. Wakana Gojo stared at the scattered brushes, a familiar pang of regret tightening his chest. "I couldn't even use them right to begin with, and now," he thought, the quiet words tinged with a deep, lingering sadness. As the words caught in his throat, Wakana Gojo's world seemed to close in, the weight of his perceived failures pressing down. "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this," he silently concluded, a deep current of despair coursing through him. As Wakana Gojo's world closed in, his mind echoed with a painful truth: loving something a lot doesn't mean you'll be good at it. This crushing realization was quickly followed by the bitter thought that hard work doesn't always pay off, solidifying his despair. Wakana Gojo's heart clenched as a terrifying question gripped him in the darkness. At this rate, what if becoming a Kashirasher isn't in the cards for me? What'll I do? The thought of his lifelong dream slipping away plunged him into profound despair. Overwhelmed by his failure to complete Marin's outfit on time, Wakana Gojo's messy workspace mirrored the chaos in his mind. He silently berated himself, his thoughts echoing with self-loathing. "Why can't I do this right? Why am I such a waste of space?" Wakana Gojo's hand is depicted rigid with desperate tension, mirroring the crushing self-doubt as his thoughts echo. "All I do, all I am, is just." He grapples with the profound weight of his perceived failure, questioning everything he is. The single, damning word, mediocre, pierced Wakana Gojo's thoughts, a harsh self-judgment echoing the despair over his failure to complete Marin's costume. In that dark moment of crushing self-doubt, he saw his efforts as utterly insufficient. The weight of his own crushing self-doubt became too much for Wakana Gojo, who lay sobbing, one hand covering his eyes as tears flowed freely. His other hand instinctively clutched his chest, a desperate grasp against the raw, internal ache. Still wrestling with his crushing self-doubt, Wakana Gojo's chest heaved with muffled sobs. A pained "kh" escaped him, followed by a raw "ugh" as the weight of his perceived mediocrity suffocated him in the quiet room. The quiet room offered no solace as Wakana Gojo's raw anguish escaped him in choked sounds of "uu, guh." His painful sobs continued to echo, a testament to the heavy burden of his self-doubt. Wakana Gojo, utterly defeated by his crushing self-doubt, collapsed into a despairing heap on the floor. His anguish remained raw and palpable as the choked, pained sounds of "uu" continued to escape him. Wakana Gojo lay motionless, a crumpled shape on the floor, as hushed, broken sounds of "uu, kh" escaped him. The quiet room offered no solace, only the crushing weight of his renewed self-doubt. Young Wakana Gojo, his brow furrowed with a child's deep thoughts, hesitantly asked his grandfather if making Hina dolls daily wasn't terribly hard and if he ever grew sick of it. His grandfather, looking at him with a knowing gaze, let out a hearty laugh, affirming, "Wh. Huh, you bet it's hard," and then, with warm sincerity, added that it ain't the sorta thing you can stick with just 'cause you like it. Young Wakana Gojo, his brow still furrowed with a child's thoughtful concern, hesitated before voicing his innocent question, "Isn't making Hina dolls every day kinda hard?" Wakana's grandfather, with a kind smile, revealed his deepest motivation. "But, that said, it's 'cause I love it that I can hang in there when the going gets tough, when I see the smiles on the customers' faces." Young Wakana listened intently, a faint blush on his cheek, as his grandfather's simple joy in bringing happiness resonated within him, making him think, "Yeah, I'm glad I'm doing this." Wakana's grandfather, beaming with a gentle resolve, declared his simple motivation: "I want to make em happy. That's why I can stick it out even when I'm beat." Witnessing this profound dedication, young Wakana was moved to tears, his face etched with a mix of understanding and deep emotion. Wakana's grandfather, his voice filled with gentle resolve, completed his thought: "I want to make em happy." His simple declaration, revealing the pure joy he found in his craft, likely settled deep in Wakana's heart. Marin Kitagawa, beaming with a flush across her cheeks, affirmed the importance of conviction, declaring, "It's important to have things you refuse to compromise on." Her gaze, soft and shimmering with deep emotion, then settled on Wakana as she added with heartfelt sincerity, "I'm so glad you're here, Gojo-kun." Wakana Gojo sat lost in quiet contemplation, the ellipses above him reflecting the profound thoughts that swirled through his mind. His gaze drifted downwards, a shy introspection coloring his features as he processed the conviction in both his grandfather's words and Marin's radiant passion. Wakana Gojo, overwhelmed by Marin's heartfelt declaration, brought a towel to his face, trying to compose himself. The soft rub-rub sound of him vigorously wiping his face betrayed the intensity of the emotions swirling within him, a shy reaction to such powerful conviction. With a decisive cinch, Wakana Gojo pulled the towel tighter around his eyes. He tried to rein in the swirling emotions that Marin's heartfelt declaration had stirred within him, a desperate attempt to regain his composure. The weight of Marin's earnest words proved too much, and Wakana Gojo's knees buckled with a quiet creak as he sank to the floor, his hands splayed out in a daze. Utterly overwhelmed, he sought solace in the ground beneath him. With the towel still binding his eyes, Wakana Gojo sat in quiet contemplation, his back turned to the window as he processed Marin's earnest words. The weight of her passion had buckled his knees, and now he seemed to be gathering himself, preparing his heart and mind for the monumental task ahead. With a renewed resolve, Wakana Gojo carefully guided his needle into the intricate lace, his hand a picture of quiet concentration. Each delicate stitch began to weave together not just fabric, but also the passionate dream Marin had entrusted to him. Wakana Gojo, deeply engrossed in his work, paused when he needed his next tool. "Scissors? Where'd I leave them this time?" he wondered, his hand rummaging through fabric as he quietly muttered, "Scissors." Wakana Gojo tensed his jaw, a bead of sweat forming as he desperately tried to recall where he'd placed the crucial scissors. His memory failed him, leaving him to simply mutter in vexation. Wakana Gojo's earlier frustration over his missing scissors intensified, his eyes now welling with tears as he clutched a needle and the delicate lace he was painstakingly crafting. Despite his deep focus and the intricate work in his hands, the small oversight brought him to a silent, desperate breaking point, revealing the immense pressure he placed upon himself. Overwhelmed by his fruitless search, Wakana Gojo slumped to the floor, pulling a cloth over his head in quiet despair. The weight of his missing scissors felt like an insurmountable burden, trapping him in his frustration. As Wakana Gojo slumped in despair, a solitary moon emerged from the clouds high above. Its pale glow offered no comfort, only deepening the vast, quiet expanse of his overwhelming frustration. The clouds continued to drift across the vast sky, softening the moon's gentle light that touched the world below. For Wakana Gojo, perhaps even this quiet, clouded night held a subtle promise of a different dawn. Over the sprawling, quiet city, the clouds continued their slow drift across the vast sky, faintly touched by the lingering, gentle moonlight. This expansive view, however, did little to lift the deep despair still clinging to Wakana Gojo, who remained lost in thought. The sprawling cityscape quietly settled beneath the sky, a mosaic of rooftops and windows fading into the soft night. Within its silent walls, countless unexpressed dreams and burgeoning passions were stirring. The sprawling cityscape continued, now revealing the close-set apartment buildings that formed its heart. Their myriad windows, like watchful eyes, silently reflected the quietude settling over the urban landscape. The quiet of the apartment was pierced by a persistent bzzz as Marin's smartphone vibrated on the low table. It was a familiar sound, often signaling a new cosplay opportunity or an exciting plan that would soon disrupt the calm. The plain, tiled exterior of a familiar apartment door stood silently, offering no hint of the vibrant energy Marin Kitagawa held within its walls. Yet, beyond its threshold, a visitor now waited, their arrival coinciding with the insistent buzz that had just broken her quiet afternoon. Marin's phone glowed with a tired, terse message from Wakana Gojo. "Okay, finished it. Going to bed." At 6:20 a.m., his words spoke volumes about the painstaking work he'd dedicated to her cosplay, surely bringing a grateful smile to Marin's face. A quiet settled over Marin Kitagawa's room as she processed Wakana Gojo's tired message, the darkness reflecting the space between his heroic effort and her eager anticipation for their next step. Overhead, the sign for Gojo dolls stood proud, a silent testament to Wakana Gojo's tireless efforts and the meticulous craft he poured his heart into. Marin Kitagawa knew it was in this very workshop that his passion truly came to life, a dedication that sparked a familiar warmth within her. A soft thwomp startled Marin Kitagawa, whose wide, tear-filled eyes stared in disbelief at what lay before her. A silent beat of passed before she finally gasped, "No way." Marin Kitagawa's tear-filled gaze fell upon the maid uniform Wakana Gojo had crafted, its intricate ruffles and delicate lace a perfect testament to his tireless dedication. Every stitch spoke of the care he poured into his work, leaving Marin speechless with awe and disbelief. Wakana Gojo, eyes heavy with fatigue but shining with accomplishment, smiled warmly at Marin Kitagawa, assuring her he'd cut it kinda close, but still got it done in time. As he added, "You'll be able to cosplay at the event now." Marin's already tear-filled gaze widened further, only able to release a silent, overwhelmed gasp. Marin Kitagawa's gaze hardened from tears to disbelief. "Gojo Kun. Don't tell me." She began, her voice rising in frustration. "Did you think I was going to the event today?" Wakana Gojo faced her, a silent admission of his mistake clear in his weary posture as her words hit home. Marin Kitagawa's wide eyes betrayed her utter shock, a bead of sweat forming as her mind reeled in speechless disbelief. Weren't you?" she stammered, grappling with an astounding realization. Marin, her wide eyes reflecting dawning guilt, stammered, I have no idea how long it takes to make clothes, and if you look, it's not too hard to find cosplay events since they happen pretty much all the time. So I was totally just gonna wait until you were done." Wakana Gojo, completely stunned by her naive admission, stood frozen by the door, his gaze fixed on her with a mixture of shock and subtle pain. Wakana Gojo slumped against the doorframe, his eyes wide and vacant, a weak totter escaping him as exhaustion finally caught up. Marin's belated guilt had landed with a heavy thud, leaving him utterly overwhelmed and speechless by the daunting task now laid bare. Marin, her eyes wide with regret, leaned in to apologize. "I'm sorry. I didn't say it clearly and gave you the wrong idea, didn't I?" Wakana, still dazed, could only manage a soft, "Oh. Huh," as his hands instinctively clenched, slowly processing her earnest words. Overwhelmed by the realization that they weren't rushed, Wakana Gojo sagged in relief against the door, exclaiming, "WCEW. Thank goodness." His earlier stress dissolved into pure joy, making him beam as he repeated to a silently processing Marin, "HHH. I'm so glad. Really." Still sagging against the door in relief, Wakana Gojo finally articulated the crushing anxiety that had plagued him for so long. All the while, he confessed, his voice tinged with past worry, "I was stressing about what we'd do if I didn't make it." Wakana Gojo, utterly dumbfounded and panicking, stammered, "Kitagawa-say," as he realized his profound misunderstanding, having thought Marin had been going home to see her grandpa all week. Marin Kitagawa, eyes brimming with tears that streamed down her face, looked utterly heartbroken by his innocent but painful misinterpretation. Marin Kitagawa, her face streaked with tears and soft sniffles, looked towards Wakana Gojo with deep regret. She tearfully confessed her obliviousness, apologizing that he was still diligently working on her costume, even though things were really rough, and I had no clue. Marin Kitagawa's tearful apology, "Gojo-kun. I'm so sorry. Really, I am," was met by Wakana Gojo sitting in quiet, internal turmoil. His slumped posture and soft "you" revealed his regret for not having noticed her distress sooner. Sejuna Inui knelt, her shoulders trembling as her face crumpled in quiet anguish. A soft, choked "b" was all that escaped her as the weight of recent events finally seemed to overcome her. Still crumpled in anguish, Sejuna Inui could only manage a choked "ngh" and a soft "hic" as Wakana Gojo, flustered and sweating, offered his own earnest apology. He stammered, "Same here. I shouldn't have gone ahead without saying anything. I'm sorry too." While acknowledging, "You gave me your number and everything. I should have talked it over with you." Confronted with Sejuna Inui's raw, tearful anguish, the usually reserved Wakana Gojo found himself utterly speechless. He stammered, his shy nature making it impossible to form coherent words of comfort. Confronted by Sejuna Inui's raw, tearful anguish, Wakana Gojo earnestly offered the completed cosplay, asking, "Would you like to try it on? Since it's ready and all." Still tear-stained and crumpled, Sejuna looked up in disbelief, her raw emotions momentarily replaced by a soft, surprised "huh," as hope flickered in her eyes. Wakana, ever meticulous, explained his need for Sejuna to put on the costume for adjustments, enthusiastically adding, "It would be good to see how the whole thing balances out, so let's do the wig and makeup too." He then paused, concerned, "You didn't bring your makeup stuff with you, only for Sejuna to reassuringly state, "No, I never leave home without it." With a quiet, earnest gaze, Wakana Gojo gently offered, "Would you like to try it on?" He explained further, "Since it's ready and all," subtly encouraging Sejuna Inui to take the next step towards realizing her dream. Wakana Gojo, a bead of sweat forming on his temple, gripped his knees as he waited, his earnest gaze fixed on Sejuna. He nervously anticipated her answer, hoping she would agree to try on the costume for adjustments. As Wakana looked on, a bead of sweat still on his brow, Marin's voice wavered, "But, Gojo-kun, you're tired." Her gentle sniffle revealed a deep, emotional concern that left Wakana speechless, unable to do anything but stare. Marin's cheeks burned crimson, her wide, watery eyes dropping from Wakana's earnest gaze as he softly called her name, Kitagawa-san. The usually outgoing girl found herself utterly flustered by his unwavering attention. Marin Kitagawa's cheeks glowed crimson, her eyes wide and sparkling as Wakana Gojo's query about becoming Shizuku-tan prompted a joyful, internal, "I show Todd all I do." With a gentle yet weary expression, Wakana encouraged her, humbly adding that her happiness would make his efforts all worth it, which immediately made Marin wonder, "You're not happy with it?" Wakana Gojo, sensing Marin Kitagawa's lingering flustered expression, gently urged her with a soft, "Come on, let's give it a try." His gaze fell slightly as he added, his voice tinged with humble sincerity, I'm glad it's done. And if you like it, then it was all worth it." Marin Kitagawa, her face a radiant mix of joyful tears and deep blushes, exclaimed, "Dua. I be over the moon. You bet I be happy. Thank you." As she reiterated, "Thank you, Gojo-kun," Wakana Gojo met her overwhelming joy with his own gentle, appreciative smile, simply replying, "Thank you." "Sure." Still overwhelmed with emotion and sniffling, Marin Kitagawa passionately declared, "I'm so totally gonna wear the heck out of it." Wakana Gojo, a quiet smile likely gracing his lips, simply acknowledged her heartfelt joy with a gentle "okay." Marin Kitagawa continued to dab her tear-streaked face, still utterly overwhelmed by her feelings. Then, with a playful honk and a gentle tug, Sejuna snapped her friend out of her emotional reverie. Wakana Gojo gently inquired if Marin Kitagawa's nose had stopped running, as Marin, still letting out a small snurf, offered a bashful, contented smile. "Heh, think I'm good now," she replied, her eyes closed in a mix of lingering emotion and sweet relief. Wakana Gojo carefully put the finishing pins in Sejuna Inui's elaborate bun, declaring they're all done. Thoughtfully, he then asked, "Did you get your makeup off?" And Sejuna calmly replied, "Yeah," signaling the day's work was finally winding down. Wakana Gojo carefully opened the costume reference book, the pages fluttering as he announced, "So let's talk about the cosplay makeup." Sejuna Inui responded with a focused "UH. Right, already mentally preparing for the next intricate stage of her transformation." Wakana Gojo continued his meticulous study, his gaze poring over the intricate makeup details in the reference book. He softly murmured the instructions to himself, her eyebrows and the outer corners of her eyes slant down. The eyeshadow is red, planning every step to perfectly capture the character's look for Marin. He carefully noted that your lipstick should be a neutral shade to make the red around the eyes pop, demonstrating his profound dedication. Marin Kitagawa leaned in, brightly declaring her understanding of the complex reference, so, ill-girl makeup. Still seated, Wakana Gojo tilted his head, his brow furrowed with confusion as he echoed, "Lil girl." Marin, ever the enthusiastic guide, brightly suggested, "There are how-to videos online for the intricate makeup." Wakana, perhaps still feeling a bit overwhelmed but eager to learn, earnestly asked Marin, "Can you show me?" Deeply focused, Wakana Gojo murmured, You can even change the shape of the double eyelid." As the intricate details of Marin's explanation settled into his artisan's mind, leaving him with a soft, awestruck wow. With a gentle expression, Sejuna Inui softly admitted, "I do have some eyelid tape," catching Wakana off guard and prompting a surprised Udio. Sejuna then explained with a touch of wistfulness that she had yearned for it, but never quite got around to using it. Sejuna Inui continued her makeup masterclass, detailing how false eyelashes are good too, and demonstrating the precise technique of applying graduated winged lashes to create droopy eyes from a turned-up shape. This meticulous guidance, she affirmed, would get Marin much closer to Shizuku-tan, undoubtedly capturing Wakana's focused attention. Marin Kitagawa gasped in distress, realizing she had no false eyelashes and couldn't handle them even if she did, as Wakana Gojo offered a calming presence beside her. But Sejuna Inui, ever the professional, surprised them both by calmly declaring, "It's okay. I have some," then produced a surprise variety, precisely locating the winged ones. Sejuna presented the Hina doll on her phone, eyelashes prominent, causing a flustered Wakana to hastily ask, "Are these your girlfriends?" Marin, meanwhile, gasped in awe, exclaiming, "Whoa. She for real does." Both then leaned in, Marin excitedly praising the doll's cuteness, while Wakana admired its original design and intricate details with deep respect. Sejuna elaborated on modern Hina dolls, explaining how they now sport pink lipstick, blush, and even varied hair colors, a charming detail that had Marin exclaiming, "No way. Su adorbs. Hey, they're stealin'." Wakana, his earlier fluster softening into genuine admiration, readily agreed, "Yes, they are." Listening intently to Sejuna, Wakana Gojo wore a thoughtful, gentle smile, acknowledging, "I can't see it yet, but..." His artisan's mind was already quietly stirring with the possibilities of modern Hina dolls. As Sejuna continued to illuminate the intricate world of Hina dolls, explaining how her grandfather and his peers could discern an artisan simply from their doll's eyebrows, Marin gasped in genuine amazement. "For real? Whoa. I totally can't tell," she exclaimed, utterly dumbfounded by such a profound level of detail. Sejuna Inui continued, explaining the distinct artistry of Hina dolls so clearly that even an ordinary person can tell who made that doll at first glance. Wakana Gojo, captivated by the doll's serene beauty and the depth of Sejuna's words, quietly affirmed, "Yeah, a subtle acknowledgement of the artisan's unique touch." Inspired by Sejuna's insightful words, Wakana Gojo softly voiced his earnest aspiration, "I hope I'll be able to make Hina dolls like that someday too." His quiet determination caused Marin Kitagawa to gasp, her face flushing with surprise and admiration at his heartfelt dream. Wakana Gojo, overcome with embarrassment, profusely apologized for getting carried away with his aspirations. "I am sorry. That was completely off topic." But Sejuna Inui, undeterred by his shyness, cut through his self-doubt with a single, powerful word of encouragement, "You will." Marin Kitagawa's cheeks flushed as she looked up at Wakana, her eyes shining and a hopeful smile gracing her lips, hands clasped in earnest support. "If anyone can do it," she softly affirmed, her unwavering faith a powerful counter to his earlier embarrassment. As Marin looked up at him with a hopeful smile, her soft words, "It's you, Gojo-kun," resonated deep within Wakana. His cheeks flushed crimson, his wide eyes betraying a profound shyness at being so truly seen by her. Wakana's cheeks flushed with a shy, heartfelt smile as he softly uttered, "Thank you." Marin's already sparkling eyes widened, fixed on him with a look of pure, unadulterated wonder. Marin, utterly captivated, exclaimed she hadn't known Wakana could smile like that, causing his face to erupt in a flustered blush as he stammered a shocked, I. Is that right?" With a soft, bashful, "Yeah." Marin turned her head slightly, leaving Wakana completely overwhelmed by her genuine compliment. Stammering and blushing furiously, Wakana knelt and tried to refocus on the task, asking, "So Kei Kitagawa san. B brows. What sort of eyebrows would be good?" Marin, still relaxed on the floor, calmly suggested, "Worry brows, for sure," already picturing the character's troubled expression. Sejuna, ever the meticulous cosplayer, began explaining the intricate process of erasing eyebrows for their desired look. With a focused gaze, she detailed how Wakana's brows would need to be hidden with glue and concealer, adding thoughtfully, "They do say it looks a little unnatural, but, With a casual confidence that belied the intensity of her words, Sejuna declared, "I've got an electric razor on me. They'll grow back, so I might as well shave them off," as the buzz of the device filled the air. Her bold, practical approach to cosplay surely left Wakana utterly speechless. No sooner said than done, Sejuna's declaration was met with a swift, sharp skzh as she immediately began her intricate process. Wakana's eye widened in sheer, frozen disbelief at the famous cosplayer's intense and instantaneous dedication. The array of professional makeup tools lay testament to Sejuna Inui's skilled hands as she concluded her work. With a confident air, Sejuna declared, "Okay, you're all set," her words ringing with the satisfaction of having perfected Marin's transformation. Wakana Gojo, with a kind and slightly bashful smile, politely excused himself to wait outside in the hall, asking them to give a shout once they were done changing. A quick, cheerful "K" answered him from behind the door as it gently shut, granting them privacy. As Wakana respectfully waited outside, Sejuna Inui began to change, her beautiful lace bra peeking into view. This brief, private glimpse offered a soft contrast to her usual powerful magical girl persona. With practiced ease, Sejuna Inui continued to undress, her jeans slipping down to reveal delicate lace, a brief, private glimpse of her sophisticated taste before the costume took its place. With practiced elegance, Sejuna Inui continued her transformation, her skilled hands carefully adjusting delicate lace stockings up her leg. Each precise movement hinted at the professional cosplayer's dedication to her craft, even as Wakana patiently waited. Sejuna's transformation continued, as delicate black lace undergarments and garter straps were revealed in intricate detail. For the shy Wakana, the sudden, intimate glimpse was utterly breathtaking, highlighting the unexpected beauty in every stitch. Sejuna Inui's slender fingers deftly fastened the delicate lace choker around her neck, a precise, alluring detail in her ongoing transformation. The intricate black lace, mirroring the elegant netting draped over her head, whispered of the captivating persona she was about to embody. With a final, careful adjustment, Sejuna Inui's long, dark hair fell gracefully, framing the delicate black lace choker at the base of her neck. Each intricate detail seemed to perfectly enhance her poised elegance, hinting at the full transformation yet to be revealed. Wakana Gojo stood in thoughtful silence, his arms crossed as he cast his gaze downward. The quiet room seemed to hold a nervous anticipation, perhaps for the stunning transformation he was about to witness. "Gojo-kun," Sejuna's soft voice gently interrupted Wakana Gojo's deep thoughts, pulling a quiet, hesitant, from him. He kept his gaze lowered, a flush hinting at his shy nature as he processed her words. Wakana Gojo, his deep thoughts resolved, finally broke his silence with a quiet, firm declaration, "I'm ready." "Gojo-kun, I'm ready," Marin's eager voice called out, filling Wakana, who stood blindfolded with arms crossed, with a rising sense of anticipation. With a calm "all right," Wakana reached for the doorknob, his hand poised to reveal the spectacle within. Wakana Gojo's single visible eye widened in absolute panic as a belated, mortifying realization hit him upon seeing Marin in her new cosplay. A cold sweat broke out as he stammered, "Ack. Come to think of it, that outfit. Didn't it show? Kind of a lot of CL cleavage." Wakana Gojo's heart hammered as he internally fretted over seeing Marin's new costume, especially with her impatient, "Gojo-kun? Come on. Hurry up." But before he could steel himself, his blindfold abruptly slid down, exposing his utterly mortified face as he choked out a panicked, "I'm sorry." Wakana Gojo's mortified thoughts continued to race, his heart hammering in his chest, when a polite voice suddenly cut through his panic, beginning, "Excuse me." All Wakana's anxieties dissolved the moment Marin Kitagawa appeared, a breathtaking vision in the Gothic-made costume he had meticulously crafted. Her wide, slightly nervous eyes, usually so confident, now seemed to search for his approval, silently asking what he thought of her stunning transformation. Wakana Gojo's eyes were wide, fixed on Marin, his cheeks flushing a vivid red. Her presence was clearly stunning, leaving the usually reserved artisan utterly speechless and captivated. Wakana remained momentarily speechless, caught in Marin's radiant presence, as a soft clutch of fabric accompanied her gentle call. "Gojo-kun," Marin finally said, her voice filled with a tender warmth that broke through his awe. With a flush painting her cheeks, Marin Kitagawa gazed at Wakana, her wide eyes questioning, "Am I Shizuku-tan? Do I make a proper sex slave?" Despite the bold costume, a touch of nervous vulnerability flickered in her expression as she awaited his judgment. With a vibrant "yes," Wakana Gojo's cheeks burned crimson as he gazed at Marin, his wide eyes alight with fervent admiration. A beaming smile spread across his face as he passionately declared, "You're Shizuku-tan, all right. You're a fantastic sex slave, Kitagawa-san." Marin Kitagawa, utterly radiant, exploded with joyous confirmation. Are right. I so totally am. Wakana Gojo, blushing deeply, returned her elated gaze with a proud smile that spurred Marin to exclaim, "Holy crap. Gojo-kun, you're amazing." He then affirmed, "Yes. You really are Shizuku-tan." In the flesh. With his eyes carefully covered, Wakana Gojo stood attentively as Marin Kitagawa modeled the newly sewn dress, his voice earnest as he inquired, "Oh, how does it fit? Are any parts too tight or too loose?" He waited, a quiet anticipation building, for her verdict on his meticulous work. Marin, absolutely beaming, exclaimed the cosplay was so spot on, quickly dismissing the minor movement restriction as no big with boundless enthusiasm. Wakana processed her words, a thoughtful realization dawning on him about a garment's wearability, just as Marin excitedly said, "I just gotta say one thing, okay?" "OHH," Wakana Gojo murmured, his eyes widening in realization as Sejuna Inui explained that crafting clothes for people demanded a keen consideration of movement and the wearer's comfort. He absorbed her words deeply, pondering this new dimension to his art. Marin's voice vibrated with pure, delighted disbelief, exclaiming how incredibly well the boob bag fit and wondering aloud how Wakana could achieve such perfect craftsmanship, shouting, "I'm freaking out for real here." "What the heck?" Sejuna, who intimately understood the nightmare of sewing such intricate details, agreed wholeheartedly, her gaze fixed on the flawless work as she declared, "See, look. Yours is perfect." Marin excitedly gushed about the skirt's perfect length, proclaiming how it totally gets it, as Sejuna's gaze was fixated on Shizuku-tan's super adorable garters peeking flawlessly through the tulle. Overwhelmed, Sejuna declared Wakana a god, feeling her own spirit merge with the character. Thank you very much." Wakana Gojo stammered, a deep blush spreading across his face as he looked away, clearly overwhelmed by the praise. He then added, "It makes me happy to hear you say that, but I feel like I still have a long way to go," his humble smile tinged with a touch of embarrassed joy. Still deeply blushing, Wakana Gojo looked utterly overwhelmed by Marin's enthusiastic praise, his mind racing. He marveled internally, "I, for real, never imagined I could become such a perfect Shizuku-tan. This is so nuts," feeling so psyched and overcome that he can't even hold up. Marin Kitagawa's own face erupted in a deep flush, her heart hammering with a frantic badump as Wakana's bashfulness hit her with full force. "Huh. This is way too epic," she thought, clutching her burning cheeks, convinced her heart might just pass out from the overwhelming cuteness. Visibly flustered and sweating, Wakana Gojo attempted to calm an utterly ecstatic Marin Kitagawa, who, breathless with excitement, demanded, "I know. Photos. I want to do photos. Come on, take some for me." Unable to resist her fervent plea, Wakana could only surrender with a resigned, "All right." Marin, bursting with anticipation, could only manage a flustered, "Huh. As Wakana, steeling himself, murmured, "Well, here goes." A decisive snap followed, and Marin immediately clamored, "Let me see. Let me see. Am I adorbs?" while Wakana quietly reacted with a soft, "Oh." Marin Kitagawa exploded with pure delight, her eyes wide and sparkling as she exclaimed, "Oh. SUHWT." At phone's contents. Wakana Gojo, flustered by her intense reaction, could only sweat and stammer, "No. This is trying to manage the unexpected level of her enthusiasm. Wakana, deeply moved and slightly flustered, struggled to articulate his awe, admitting, "I'm not really sure how to put this. It is Shizuku-tan, but it's you, Kitagawa-san." Marin, having acknowledged his previous fumbling with a simple right, then showed off her huge grin in costume, yet her expression held a fleeting hint of concern as she asked, "Huh? No good?" "It's not okay." Wakana Gojo, his eyes wide with focused intent, finally articulated his thoughts. "It is cosplay after all. Let's have you strike a pose that matches Shizuku-tan's image." Behind him, Sejuna Inui's perceptive gaze scanned the scene as she added, "Also, this Japanese-style room doesn't fit the game's world at all, so we'll have To do something about that too." Marin, eager to explain the nuances of at-home cosplay, envisioned, "It would be great if we had a big, blank cloth to use as a backdrop, illustrating how a simple sheet could hide signs of daily life." She then noted that while Wakana's workshop held many fabrics, the ones we have here are all for the Hina dolls, so they have traditional Japanese patterns, making them lovely but impractical for this purpose. Marin, ever the enthusiastic teacher, visually explained the need for a simple, black or white cloth to create an effective backdrop. She emphasized that this would help Tio hide signs of daily life when doing at-home cosplay, allowing the focus to remain solely on the character. Marin, ever the enthusiastic problem solver, peeked from behind a door, her eyes gleaming with a sudden idea as she excitedly asked, "What about this door?" She then rapidly built upon her thought, exclaiming, "If we take the pics here, it'll be white. And couldn't we just hide the tatami mats with your futon?" Sejuna, in her elaborate costume, hummed a thoughtful HMM, her eyes fixed on Wakana as she pondered. Wakana, ever the diligent artisan, listened intently, his hand to his chin, patiently awaiting her next insight. Wakana Gojo, lost in his focused concentration, was startled when an enthusiastic voice suddenly cut through the air, "Gojo Kien." His eyes widened slightly as he turned his gaze to the right, a ripple of surprise crossing his face. Wakana eagerly presented his impromptu solution, his eyes shining as he declared, "Right. This'll work." Sejuna, still in her elaborate dress, looked up at him, a spark of realization in her eyes as she agreed, "You're right. As long as I don't get the door pull or the frame in the shot, we can fake it." Sejuna gave her direction. "This time, let's try taking one in line with Shizuku-tan's persona." Marin, utterly focused, offered a subdued K, her deep gaze embodying the character who doesn't smile at all until she gets lovesick. As the camera gave a swift snap, it captured Marin beaming with pure, unadulterated joy, her eyes crinkling happily. But the moment was quickly cut short by a firm voice declaring, "Hold it. That one doesn't count," making Marin blush at being caught so vibrantly off character. With her phone held steady, Sejuna prepared to capture Marin's radiant expression once more. "Ready and," she instructed, aiming to immortalize the pure joy radiating from Marin in her perfect cosplay. As Wakana gently observed, "You smiled again, huh?" Marin was practically vibrating with happiness, squeezing her eyes shut and blushing profusely. She declared herself freaking delirious and utterly unable to stop smiling, even playfully calling her own joyous expression ugly. As Sejuna counted out the moments, 1, 2, the air was thick with anticipation, ready to capture Marin's radiant smile. Wakana watched, a soft warmth blossoming in his chest at her boundless joy. Sejuna, ever the perfectionist, called out 1, 2, before snapping another picture, capturing Marin in her stunning Shizuku-tan cosplay. As Marin glowed with confident delight, asking, "How is that?" Wakana, utterly entranced and blushing fiercely, could only stammer, "You became Shizuku-tan. You're amazing, Kitagawa-san." Sejuna, overwhelmed by Marin's perfect portrayal, snapped picture after picture, praising OH. "Even the pose is perfect." Marin, eyes closed and a soft blush on her face, embodied the character flawlessly, prompting Sejuna to then ask, "Could you hold that look and try lying down?" Sejuna's camera flashed repeatedly as she passionately directed Marin, "Look this way, please," and praised her mesmerizing pose with an excited yes. "That's really great." Marin, fully immersed, met the lens with an intense, captivating gaze. Despite immense fatigue from sleepless nights, Wakana was overcome with a natural high as Sejuna's camera snapped, seeing Marin embody Shizuku-tan so perfectly. With wide, teary eyes and a racing mind, his exhaustion collided with the profound pride for his sublime creation. Wakana's artistic, natural high was suddenly jolted, giving way to a surprised AGH as Sejuna's lens captured an unexpectedly intimate detail of Marin's costume. The sight, surely meant for the camera, left the shy artisan utterly flustered. Overflowing with delight, Sejuna excitedly declared, "You did a super-duper job. These ones came out so good. I'm totes psyched." Wakana, taken aback by her instantaneous action, could only exclaim, "You're uploading them already?" Still overwhelmed, Wakana Gojo let out a relieved wheeze and, wiping away a bead of sweat, nervously asked if his shots would suffice, offering a shy thanks for Sejuna's booming praise. Sejuna, beaming with uncontainable delight, eagerly leaned in and demanded, "Let me see the pics." Marin, now considering her own role more deeply, initially pondered what cost name to choose, muttering, what to do, before a simple, clear decision sparked. With a bright smile unseen, Marin declared she'd simply go by Marin, embracing her passion with a name that felt perfectly hers. Marin's face lit up as she exclaimed, "Ooh, wow," gazing at the screen displaying Sejuna Inui's incredible Shizuku-tan cosplay photos. Wakana Gojo, equally captivated by the exquisite detail and charm, couldn't help but feel utterly overwhelmed, thinking, too freaking cool. Marin's eye glistened with a mix of awe and burgeoning inspiration as she absorbed Sejuna's masterful cosplay on the screen. Her focus then shifted, and with a soft yet eager tone, she addressed Wakana, "Hey, Gojo-kun." Still buzzing with inspiration from Sejuna, Marin, still in her elaborate cosplay, turned to Wakana and enthusiastically proposed, "Wanna go to that cosplay event tomorrow?" Wakana, caught completely off guard by her fervent invitation, could only stare back in bewildered surprise, managing a faint "huh." Still buzzing with an electric surge of inspiration, Marin eagerly pulled Wakana along, declaring, "The event runs all weekend, so they should be doing stuff tomorrow too, right? I kinda wanna be in it now. Let's go, Gojo-kun." Wakana, utterly bewildered by her sudden, passionate urgency, could only manage a stammered, "I am going too," as he was swept into her wake. Marin, still glowing with her newfound inspiration, insisted on Wakana's assistance, pleading, "I can't put the lashes on myself. I won't be able to get the face right without you." As a mental reminder of Sejuna's etiquette echoed, Marin noticed his hesitation and softly asked, "Or maybe you're not into the idea of going," which left a visibly flustered Wakana stammering, "No. I don't know how to tell you this, but..." Sparkling with unshakable conviction in her elaborate dress, Marin beamed at a visibly flustered Wakana, playfully demanding, "What's wrong with wearing that?" With shining eyes and earnest belief, she then declared it was "so you, Gojo-kun," and totally fine, overwhelming him with her passionate assurance. Wakana, visibly overwhelmed and flustered, broke out in a sweat as he processed Marin's exciting new idea. His gaze dropped to his simple work clothes, the Samu, as he internally stammered, "All I've got by way of non-school clothing, is this Samu. So, where to a cosplay event?" Marin, still buzzing with excitement, finalized their plans to meet at Ikebukuro tomorrow, expressing concern that Wakana looked ready to keel over before erupting in a joyful, "Oichhhhhhhman. I can't. Wait." A thoroughly overwhelmed Wakana could only manage a breathless "huh." Oh, okay," in reply. As the city lights began to glow, casting a quiet ambience over the urban sprawl, the anticipation for tomorrow's Ikebukuro adventure settled in. Marin's boundless excitement and Wakana's flustered thoughts silently painted the night with their vibrant energy. As the city's evening glow deepened, the anticipation for tomorrow's Ikebukuro adventure hummed in the air, a silent promise carried by the bustling streets. Amidst the urban rhythm, the vibrant energy of the night embraced the quiet excitement building for Marin and Wakana. Under the softening glow of the evening sky, the quiet modern home settled into the night. Inside, Wakana likely contemplated the day's events and the exciting Ikebukuro adventure awaiting him and Marin tomorrow, his mind brimming with anticipation. Marin Kitagawa, completely at ease and sprawling across the bed, hummed a cheerful, rhythmic HMM. To herself. Her relaxed posture and content tune were met with a soft, questioning HMM from Wakana, perhaps still processing her boundless energy. Marin Kitagawa's cheerful hum abruptly died, her eyes glowing with furious disbelief as she stared at her phone. "Who the hell is this?" she exclaimed, utterly stunned by the unexpected sight before her. Marin Kitagawa's sharp "hunh" sliced through the air as she stared at her phone. A social media post had retweeted the renowned Sejuna Inui, who was flawlessly cosplaying Marintan, igniting a complicated surge of furious disbelief within Marin as she gazed at the images. The crisp, official announcement at Ikebukuro Station confirmed Marin Kitagawa's mounting fury and disbelief. A major cosplay event was indeed scheduled for today. This sign, proclaiming the park event as part of a grand cultural initiative, only fueled her frustration about what she'd just seen. The air vibrated with the excited buzz of the bustling venue as Sejuna Inui, beaming, happily clutched her ticket alongside a grinning friend. A short distance away, Wakana Gojo stood quietly, taking in the lively scene with a thoughtful gaze, his hand resting on his rolling bag. Amidst the buzz of the vibrant convention, Wakana Gojo moved with a focused gaze, pulling his bag forward. He took in the charged atmosphere, perhaps already anticipating the emotional currents set by Marin and Sejuna. Marin Kitagawa's eyes widened, sparkling with pure awe as a soft blush crept onto her cheeks, letting out a breathless "oh." Her gaze was fixed, utterly captivated by the incredible sight before her. Marin Kitagawa practically vibrated with excitement, her eyes sparkling as she declared, "My gosh, cosplay events are the best." The vibrant energy of the swarming cosplayers made her feel insanely fired up, though it left Wakana Gojo silently overwhelmed and sweating beside her. Deeply moved, Marin Kitagawa's cheeks flushed a vibrant red as she squeezed her eyes shut, a blissful smile gracing her lips, her hand gently cradling her face. With a heart full of overwhelming joy, she softly declared, "After all, it's finally my turn. My cosplay debut." Sejuna Inui, brimming with sheer delight, spun around with a closed-eyed smile, exclaiming, "I'm so thrilled. This is so the best." As she faced Wakana Gojo, her expression softened, eyes wide with a profound gratitude as she whispered, "Thanks, Gojo Kun." Overwhelmed by the girl's joyful reactions, Wakana Gojo's anxiety spiked, his heart thumping badump as sweat beaded on his face. When an off-panel voice gently asked, "Hey, Gojo-kun? What's the matter?" he could only stammer, There are unable to articulate his flustered thoughts. Wakana Gojo, visibly flustered by the crowd of women, mentally confessed he felt utterly out of place and couldn't relax. Sejuna Inui, hands on her hips, looked at him with a surprised, "Are you for real?" and a trailing "A also." Sejuna nervously peeked, sensing unsettling eyes on them, which startled a flustered Wakana Gojo who had just inwardly convinced himself he didn't belong. But Marin's passionate voice suddenly cut through, praising the super cute outfit and confidently declaring, "That's gotta be it." Seeing Wakana Gojo flustered, Marin Kitagawa beamed with sparkling eyes. "Maybe they're all dazzled by your work, Gojo-kun. That's gotta be it." Wakana could only manage a startled, as her overwhelming praise caught him completely off guard. Beaming with an almost cheeky pride, Marin Kitagawa declared, "Odds are it's cost they've never seen a boob bag this good here," as she enthusiastically clutched the garment. Wakana Gojo, utterly flustered by Marin's bold display and the boinging movement, could only stammer, "Kitagawa-san. Please don't hoist them up like that," while Marin, eyes sparkling with admiration, insisted, "I don't think anyone could beat this craftsmanship." Sejuna Inui, ever composed amidst the attention, gently proposed moving, "Actually, if you can't chill here, wanna go to the upper deck? There were photographers and other guys up there." Still flustered and apologetic, Wakana Gojo shyly accepted her kind offer, muttering, "Sorry for the hassle, but yes, please." Marin Kitagawa, invigorated by the nice, laid-back vibe of their new location, instantly spotted a "so cute" Vanessa-sama cosplay, even noting with blunt admiration, "Holy wow, she's got a ginormous rack." Wakana Gojo, initially letting out a phew of relief, was then struck by a surprised as he realized the dedicated fans were already patiently queuing for photos. A cheerful photographer, camera poised, approached the group with a bright smile. "May I take your photo?" he asked, his gaze respectfully focused on the striking cosplayers, Marin and Sejuna. The photographer's question instantly brought Sejuna to a wide-eyed halt, a flicker of surprise crossing her usually composed face. Behind her, Wakana's own eyes widened in flustered shock, caught off guard by the sudden attention. Sejuna's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with bewildered shock as the photographer's question hung in the air. "Huh. You mean me?" The cheerful photographer, oblivious to her fluster, eagerly confirmed, "Why yes. You're Shizuka Kuro from Slippery Girls too, right?" Sejuna, usually so composed, found herself utterly dumbfounded by the precise recognition. Sejuna's initial bewildered shock gave way to an explosion of pure delight, her eyes practically beaming with exhilaration as a deep blush colored her cheeks. A wide, joyful cry escaped her lips, her body language radiating utter, overwhelmed happiness at the photographer's question. Sejuna, bursting with an irrepressible joy, eagerly declared, "Yes. I'm Shizuku-tan," and practically bounced as she encouraged, "Photos are A-okay with me. If you don't mind, please take lots." Wakana Gojo watched her with a soft, proud smile, charmed by her pure enthusiasm. Ever thoughtful, Wakana Gojo quietly announced, "I'll stay OFF to the side so I don't get in the way," hoping to facilitate Sejuna's excitement. He then let out a soft, questioning as her pure joy registered with him. Wakana Gojo stood quietly to the side, a serene smile gracing his lips as he took in the bustling surroundings. Beside him, Sejuna Inui, radiating as Shizuku-tan, suddenly widened her eyes in surprised realization, quietly articulating that's a guy in drag. Wakana Gojo, still beaming from the vibrant atmosphere, shared his lively observation. There were lots of cross-dressing girls. Sejuna Inui, mirroring his pleasant surprise, added, down in the other area too. Wakana Gojo's understanding dawned with a quiet, I get it, as he realized that since these cosplayers loved their characters, they could truly enjoy the experience however they wanted. A soft, appreciative smile then touched his lips, finding the whole vibrant scene. That's kinda neat. Wakana Gojo squinted up at the intense summer sun, feeling the heat keenly despite the breeze, murmuring, you can really feel summer in the air today. But it sure is hot. His gaze then shifted, surprised by the sudden emergence of a long queue of photographers, making him wonder, when did that happen? As the intense summer sun bore down, Wakana Gojo felt a wave of dizziness wash over him, letting out a weak yu-yu. He pressed a hand to his temple, his gaze slightly unfocused, overwhelmed by the heat. As the camera flashed, Sejuna Inui held her graceful pose, her gaze thoughtful and composed. She subtly shifted, a hand rising to her chin, as another snap echoed, capturing her serene beauty. With a gentle smile, Wakana Gojo offered a sincere, thank you very much, quietly observing Sejuna Inui's impressive composure and thinking, she's managing to stay in character today. Sejuna, ever so polite, quickly returned his gratitude with a firm, thank you. After the final snap of the photoshoot, Sejuna, observed by Marin's keen eye, turned to Wakana with a sparkling thank you in response to his gratitude. Her enthusiasm overflowed as she pulled a surprised Wakana in for a souvenir photo, exclaiming, you mind if we take one together? Before bowing deeply and declaring, you so made my day. Wakana Gojo's gaze softened as he observed Marin, a quiet warmth spreading through him at the thought. It's great that Kitagawa-san seems to be having fun. A subtle, contented smile touched his lips, bringing a sense of relief as he reflected, I'm glad I managed to keep my promise too. Marin Kitagawa, her hands clasped and eyes bright with hope, broke Wakana's reverie with an earnest plea, Dio, you think you could make my cosplay? Wakana Gojo's gaze snapped wide in surprise as the sudden question finally registered, making him whisper, right. Marin Kitagawa's eyes widened, her mouth falling open in an astonished gasp. Her hands clasped tightly, she was completely overwhelmed by a wave of pure excitement and wonder. Sejuna Inui, in her elaborate costume, looked away with a gentle, reflective gaze, her expression carrying a quiet resolve. I kept my promise, she thought. So my time with Kitagawa-san. Wakana Gojo stood still, his back to the scene, as Sejuna Inui, mid-pose for Shinju's camera, quietly delivered her impactful declaration, ends today. The words seemed to hang in the air, a poignant announcement marking the end of their creative journey together. Wakana Gojo gazed forward, a profound sense of wonder reflecting in his eyes as he quietly mused, it hardly seems real. To the reserved artisan, the vivid world unfolding before him still felt like a beautiful, dreamlike tableau. The profound wonder Wakana Gojo felt only deepened, bringing a vivid blush to his cheeks as his gaze remained fixed. He was utterly captivated, his heart quietly stirred by the impactful scene before him. Wakana Gojo stood beside Marin Kitagawa, both reduced to simple silhouettes, hushed and still as their shared gaze remained fixed on something breathtaking just out of frame. The profound wonder that had bloomed in Wakana only deepened, a silent, shared awe settling between them. Overwhelmed by a sudden rush of emotion, Sejuna Inui confessed, I'd never even had the chance to talk to her, and yet. Her raw honesty resonated through the hushed classroom as Wakana Gojo and Marin Kitagawa watched, captivated by the depth of her feelings. Marin Kitagawa listened to Sejuna's confession, offering a soft, understanding smile. Her gaze, warm and compassionate, silently assured Sejuna that she was heard. Going somewhere after school with a classmate, meeting up on days off, spending time like this. Sejuna's voice trailed off, the weight of every missed moment settling heavy in the air. All of it, she murmured, a quiet lament for the simple joys she'd never known. A wide, heartfelt smile bloomed on Marin Kitagawa's face as she realized, has been new to me. Wakana Gojo listened intently, his gaze fixed on her joyful expression, absorbing her heartfelt words. Marin Kitagawa stood with a hand on her hip, a gentle, thoughtful smile gracing her lips. Her soft gaze reflected the profound realization that these new, precious experiences with Wakana were truly a gift. Marin, adorned in an elaborate cosplay, looked ahead with a soft, pensive gaze, perhaps contemplating the newness she had just acknowledged. Her expression held a quiet reflection, absorbing the moment. Marin Kitagawa stood with a gentle smile, her hand comfortably on her hip, still immersed in the pleasant thoughts that lingered from her cosplay. Her soft gaze drifted, reflecting the passion and joy she carried even in her everyday school life. Wakana Gojo, lost in thought, looked away with a pensive gaze, as did Sejuna Inui, still adorned in her intricate headpiece. Then, Wakana gently lowered his eyes, a soft, appreciative smile gracing his lips as he quietly savored the beautiful scene. Sejuna Inui, still regal in her elaborate costume, turned her gaze away, her lips slightly parted in a silent, thoughtful expression. The intricate lace and roses framing her face seemed to capture a moment of profound contemplation for the talented cosplayer. Sejuna Inui looked up, her wide gaze holding a silent, as a new thought seemed to take root. Below, Wakana Gojo met her with a gentle, understanding smile. A radiant smile broke across Sejuna Inui's face, her eyes welling with tears as a blush colored her cheeks. The renowned cosplayer was clearly overcome, a profound joy blossoming from deep within her heart. A single, wide eye of Sejuna Inui captured the overwhelming intensity as a powerful throb resonated deep within her. The sheer magnitude of her feeling was palpable, her heart pounding with a mix of awe and profound joy. Beads of sweat formed on Wakana Gojo's brow as he uttered a confused "huh," his heart giving a rapid beatum. A sudden chill and an unfamiliar twinge coursed through him, reflecting the potent surge of emotion in the air. Sejuna Inui, entirely absorbed in her character, struck a delightful pose, her heart thumping beatum with pure joy. Wakana Gojo could only utter a faint "UH" as he clutched his own chest, his heart echoing her rapid beatum at the sight. Marin Kitagawa grinned widely, a cheerful "HUH," bubbling up as she took in the unfolding spectacle before her. Her heart gave a soft doki, clearly delighted by Sejuna's spirited pose and Wakana's flustered reaction. Wakana Gojo's heart hammered, badump as he stared, his eyes wide and sparkling with utter disbelief, a flush creeping up his cheeks. "WHW che." "HUH," he stammered, completely overwhelmed by the magnificent sight, barely managing to voice, "What is this?" Wakana Gojo's heart hammered, badump, his wide eye glistening with an almost dazzling brilliance, KI, as he remained utterly captivated. The incredible scene before him had truly stolen his breath away. Wakana Gojo could only softly utter, "Kitagawa-san," his heart still pounding as he took in Marin's radiant presence. Marin, her cheeks flushed and eyes wide with a soft gasp of "HFF," then warmly called out to him, "Gojo-kun." Marin Kitagawa, having seemingly embraced Wakana Gojo in relief with a soft "HFF, confessed, "Oh good. I thought you'd disappeared, and I kinda had a freak out." Wakana, his face burning crimson and heart racing, beatum, could only gasp, "Why? Yes." Marin let out another soft "HFF, a nervous sweat drop forming as she pulled back slightly, her lips curving into a hesitant smile. Gathering her courage, Marin Kitagawa then looked at Wakana and insisted, "Hey listen. I think." Marin Kitagawa's cheeks flushed crimson, sweat beading as she closed her eyes in a nervous, but resolute smile, declaring to Wakana, "I'm gonna strip." Her sudden, bold words revealed a surge of passionate determination overriding any lingering shyness. Wakana Gojo's eyes widened, his brow furrowing in utter bewilderment as he tried to process what he'd just heard. He could only manage a stunned, "Come again," as Marin's unexpected words began to sink in. Marin Kitagawa's nervous, but resolute confession hung in the air, leaving Wakana Gojo utterly bewildered and speechless. A profound silence descended between them, the world seeming to hold its breath as he tried to comprehend the weight of her words. After Marin Kitagawa's sudden confession, Wakana Gojo's mind reeled, leaving him only able to muster a stunned, "Come again." His dazed gaze and blank expression betrayed his utter bewilderment, struggling to comprehend the weight of her words. As the narrator proclaimed that Wakana and Marin had finally made it to a cosplay event, A dazed Wakana Gojo stood, still reeling from recent emotional turmoil. However, the ominous, but, in the air, combined with his nervous sweat and tightly clenched fist, suggested he instinctively braced for an unexpected challenge. Still reeling from Marin's confession, Wakana could only muster a confused, "Come again," as his gaze fell upon Sejuna. To her horror, the famous cosplayer realized her meticulously prepared costume, for some inexplicable reason, seemed poised to fall apart. Marin lay back, eyes closed in serene repose, her hand gracefully resting on her head as Wakana's arm gently embraced her. The air shimmered with the magic of Marin's whispered confession, a dreamlike moment that surely left Wakana's heart reeling. Marin, beaming with satisfaction while looking at her phone, excitedly explained her epiphany from the previous night. She'd been admiring the photos Wakana took, but felt her portrayal of Shizuku-tan lacked in a particular department. To remedy this, she proudly revealed her comical solution of stacking, actually, 2 of M stacked and now 4x, supersized, Nubras, leaving Wakana utterly bewildered and only able to stammer, Nubra? Huh? Marin, flushed with a mix of passionate excitement and physical strain, grimaced happily as her tightly fitting costume threatened to burst, exclaiming, "My chest feels like it's gonna burst." Wakana, visibly flustered and sweating profusely at her predicament, could only stammer back, "Oh, of course it does." Wakana Gojo, flustered by the costume's extreme fit, exclaimed, "It's made to fit your measurements, Kitagawa-san. It doesn't have that much give." His cheeks flushed as he recognized the character's exaggerated proportions, realizing, besides, she's that big because she's a game character. Beads of sweat formed on Sejuna Inui's brow as she wrestled with the elaborate ensemble, exhaling HFF, while noting, also, "This wig is really stuffy." With another small huff, she began to list more challenges, and dripping with sweat, Sejuna Inui lamented that the costume is really hot. "I'm dying here," as Wakana Gojo paled in horror. He suddenly understood his error, realizing with a jolt that he had used a fabric that was somewhat thick and heavy for the elaborate design. As Sejuna's head began to spin from the oppressive heat, she weakly groaned, "York. My head's spinning." Seeing her friend's distress, Marin was gripped by panic, frantically apologizing, "I'm sorry. It's my fault," and urged them to get inside. "Let's get inside the hall, to find somewhere cool immediately." With a quiet determination to help Sejuna, Wakana Gojo presented a collection of cooling sheets, frosty towels, and rehydration drinks, simply offering here. Ever practical, he also remembered to pick up a travel-sized sewing kit, thinking it wise to be prepared for any quick fixes. Sejuna gratefully took a long, cooling SLU of the drink, her eyes closing in relief. With a faint flush on her cheeks from the lingering heat, she finished with a quiet URP, a tangible wave of comfort washing over her. Sejuna sighed in pure relief, exclaiming, "Haya. That hits the spot." As the cool drink offered sweet respite, her grateful gaze then finding Wakana Gojo to add, "Thanks, Gojo Kun." Wakana, ever modest and with a soft expression, simply replied, "Don't worry about it." Wakana gently asked Sejuna if she could make it to the dressing room, but Sejuna, utterly drained and slumped, weakly replied that she couldn't move. Seeing her exhaustion, Marin compassionately suggested they all take it easy for a little while right there. Wakana, his brow furrowed with a bead of sweat, silently chided himself, "I should have taken precautions against the heat." As he quickly ripped open a cooling pack, his gaze was heavy with worry, a soft, guilt-laden, "I'm sorry," escaping his lips. Marin's casual, reassuring chill cut through Wakana's mounting panic, bringing an unexpected wave of calm. Sejuna's exhaustion momentarily melted away as her eyes softly closed, finding a moment of tranquil repose. Marin's blissful that feels so good. Filled the air as Wakana diligently applied the cooling pack, acknowledging her request to put them on your neck and under your arms as well, to cool the areas with major blood vessels. Meeting her intense, grateful gaze with a slight flush, Wakana softly agreed, MMKY, completely focused on her comfort. Wakana, ever attentive, offered Marin a cooling, frosty towel, gently saying, "Here, Kitagawa-san, dry off with this." Marin, accepting the thoughtful gesture, murmured a sincere thanks. In return, Wakana, with a tender touch, pressed the cool, frosty towel against Marin's leg, carefully wiping away the glistening sweat. It was a simple act of care, yet it conveyed his gentle consideration for her well-being. Caught slightly off guard by Wakana's gentle attentiveness, Sejuna's gaze drifted, a subtle blush coloring her cheeks as she pressed the frosty towel to her arm. Her usual poise gave way to a hint of unexpected shyness in the face of such kindness. Sejuna, her face flushed and glistening with effort, let out a soft phew as she expertly adjusted the binding laces of her costume. The tight garment emphasized her chest with an almost audible boing, a testament to its restrictive fit. Son devam idier. Profusely wiping away sweat from his burning face, Wakana Gojo mumbled, I'll see if there's anything else we can do, while his mind screamed that two of them stacked is incredible. Sejuna's simple thanks only deepened his mortified blush. Marin's worried voice insisted, heat stroke and all that's mega scary, so we gotta be careful. Wakana, holding his phone, readily conceded with you said it, then his attention snapped to the screen as he began to exclaim, here's some tea chai. Marin, radiant in her elaborate cosplay, leaned in with an eager gaze, pressing, tell me. What's it say? Wakana, still overwhelmed and flustered, could only manage a stammered, As he avoided her intense scrutiny, his face likely still burning. Marin, retracting her previous question with a soft, never mind, listened as Wakana calmly stated, we're doing about all we can do. His next, firm command, give it here, however, caught her off guard, leaving her with a questioning question mark. The blunt advice to remove or loosen clothing, belts, neckties, and undergarments to allow heat to disperse flashed before them. For shy Wakana, reading such an explicit suggestion in light of Marin's elaborate cosplay surely sent a nervous blush creeping. Marin Kitagawa, still flushed from the heat, looked back at Wakana Gojo and, with an almost innocent boldness, asked, for real? Mind unzipping me then? Her blunt request sent Wakana's shy mind spiraling into utter panic. Sejuna Inui reacted with a stunned, to Wakana Gojo's suggestion, who quickly added, it doesn't have to be all the way. Turning her back in a flustered attempt to maintain composure, Sejuna insisted, nudity's ANGO at this event anyway. Just gimme a lil breathing room. Let's at least go to the dressing R. A soft, distressed, escaped Wakana Gojo as he looked away, sweat beading on his skin. He murmured, realizing the stark truth right now. Kitagawa-san can't move, his gaze heavy with concern for her. Sweat trickled down Wakana Gojo's neck as he worried, she's got it really rough. Sejuna Inui watched him with a soft, understanding gaze, while Wakana mentally urged himself, this is no time. Wakana Gojo's fingers tightened on the zipper, his internal battle against panic evident as he knew he couldn't afford to lose his head now. With a determined, albeit nervous, breath, he finally uttered, excuse me, then, to Sejuna. As Wakana Gojo carefully pulled the zipper up Sejuna Inui's back, the zip sound was met with a surprised OH from Sejuna. Sweat beaded on her bare skin, causing her to give a slight twitch, overwhelmed by the intimacy of the moment. With a closed-eyed sigh, Sejuna Inui inwardly reveled in the thought of fresh air, lamenting her gushy with sweat state and wishing the back of her costume could open for such sweet relief. Meanwhile, Wakana Gojo was drenched in anxious sweat, utterly flustered as he frantically wished for a change of clothes, even considering buying new ones. With a direct gaze, Sejuna Inui made a soft plea to Wakana Gojo, Gojo-kun. Could you wipe down my back? Wakana visibly flinched, a rush of understanding coloring his face as he stammered, oh, right. Wakana Gojo, still flustered by the request, braced himself with a shy, well then. Here I go. Sejuna, though inwardly cringing with an I lost my cool anyway thought, couldn't help but beam at his effort, declaring, you're the best. With a soft, almost reverent touch, Wakana Gojo brought the cloth to Sejuna Inui's damp costume, meticulously patting away the moisture. Despite his inner turmoil, his actions were precise and gentle, focused entirely on the delicate task of assisting her. A gentle touch from Wakana Gojo sent a shudder through Sejuna Inui, her face flushing crimson as she gasped, Overwhelmed by the unexpected sensation, her eyes remained closed as she let out a soft OH. As Wakana Gojo's hand gently absorbed the moisture, Sejuna Inui's heart pounded with a frantic ba-dump as she impulsively pleaded, Gojo-kun. Can you do that lower down too? Pretty please. Flustered, Wakana hesitantly questioned, lower, wondering, why you mean here? As Wakana Gojo's gentle hand continued to absorb the moisture from her back, Sejuna Inui quivered, a chorus of overwhelmed gasps like, yes. Ooh yeah. That feels amazing, escaping her lips. Her pleasure intensified with each tender touch, culminating in a breathless, holy crap. That's so good, it hurts, as she urged him to keep going. Sejuna, acutely aware of their exposed situation, pleaded with Marin to lower her voice. Kitagawa-san, please keep your voice down. What if somebody comes over here? Marin, however, could only gasp and shiver uncontrollably, her NGH and ragged breathing betraying an intense reaction she couldn't suppress, despite insisting it wasn't on purpose. Sejuna, still visibly flustered from the heat and her earlier exposure, looked down shyly as she made another frank request to Wakana. It's all sticky under my skirt too. Gojo-kun, towel, please. Wakana's mind reeled, his face instantly flushing crimson as the intimate implication of her words truly sank in. Sejuna's eyes snapped wide in sudden understanding, a flush rising on her cheeks as she blurted, "Oh, right." The realization seemed to hit her with full force, only adding to her existing fluster. Wakana Gojo stammered in mortified embarrassment, "Kitagawa-san, I can SSC," to which Marin Kitagawa cheerfully replied, "No big deal. I've got shorts on, completely unfazed." Sejuna Inui looked on in wide-eyed shock at the revealing outfit, prompting a hesitant, "Oh, okay?" from a still flustered Wakana. Wakana Gojo, still reeling from the unexpected revelation, hesitantly questioned Marin about what she had written, only for Marin to cheerfully confirm her dedication to fully embody Shizuku-tan. With a flush still on his cheeks, Wakana could only manage a quiet, understanding, "I see," accepting Marin's earnest commitment. With a precise, mechanical, Chaikin, Wakana Gojo declared that should be enough reinforcement for now, his focus entirely on meticulously adjusting Sejuna's costume. Feeling the secure fit, Sejuna offered a simple, appreciative thanks for his skilled handiwork. Wakana Gojo, ever attentive to her well-being, urged Marin to call it a day, concerned about her health and adding, "It's not as tough as machine stitching though, so I think we should call it a day. There's your health to think about too." Looking up at him with a cheerful smile, Marin readily agreed with an "okay, wide oak," before asking, "Wanna head back?" Wakana Gojo's eyes widened slightly in surprise and mild embarrassment as he quickly retracted his words. "Oh, sorry, spoke too soon," he murmured, realizing his previous assumption about Marin or the task at hand had been premature. Tilted her head, Marin Kitagawa looked up at Wakana with wide, hopeful eyes, asking, "Can we actually go back to the plaza one more time?" Sensing his hesitation, she added with an eager promise, "It won't take long, promise." With an earnest, hopeful gaze fixed on Wakana, Marin Kitagawa tried to reassure him, "It won't take long, promise." Amidst the everyday buzz and faint HI of the bustling street, a new, hopeful understanding quietly formed between Marin and Wakana. Their conversation had just ended, leaving an exciting current lingering in the air. Stepping through the lingering street buzz, Sejuna Inui suddenly halted, her eyes closed as a sharp recognition dawned on her. There she is," she declared, her posture suggesting a firm, purposeful discovery. With a joyful TMP in her step, Sejuna Inui beamed, her eyes sparkling as she finally found the person she sought. "I'm glad I found you so fast, Miss Photographer," she declared, her eagerness evident in her wide smile. Sejuna Inui, looking a bit pale and apologetic, explained she had to head home after feeling dizzy from the heat, making Marin Kitagawa instantly exclaim in concern, "WHAT? Oh no, are you okay?" Meanwhile, Wakana Gojo's heart pounded as he became flustered with embarrassment and worry, realizing Sejuna had pushed herself for his sake and insisting, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. You really didn't have to." Despite her lingering dizziness, Sejuna Inui proposed a quick shot in the shade, and Wakana Gojo, his face alight with pure joy in the costume, eagerly agreed with a cheerful "sure." Then, as a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, Sejuna, her voice firm, called out, "Look at me, please," ready to capture Wakana's intense gaze. With a dramatic whoosh, Sejuna Inui struck a captivating pose, her wide eyes intensely focused as she brought her character to life. Despite her earlier dizziness, her unwavering dedication to the shot was evident in every detail, commanding the attention of Wakana Gojo. Marin Kitagawa's face flushed crimson, camera still in hand, utterly overwhelmed by Sejuna Inui's bold pose. Sejuna herself, suddenly realizing the intensity of her own actions, widened her eyes in mortification and gasped, AGH. Oh, crap. Still flustered and crimson from Sejuna's powerful pose, Marin quickly apologized for not looking at the camera, insisting, can we do that over? Sejuna, initially surprised, calmly agreed to take two, as Wakana quietly mused, that's what bothered her, after Marin's overwhelming reaction. The sprawling city skyline offered a quiet expanse, giving Marin, Wakana, and Sejuna a moment to breathe as the day unfolded around their burgeoning friendships. Underneath the vast sky, new connections were quietly taking root. As Marin and Wakana descended the stairs at Ikebukuro Station, the automated announcement, "Caution. The doors are closing," was a soft signal that their shared day was gently coming to an end. Their calm demeanor suggested a quiet contentment, even as their outing drew to a close. Marin beamed with pure delight upon finding seats in the quiet carriage, exclaiming, "We got seats." Score. Wakana, easing his luggage beside him, added his own observation, "The train's quite empty at this hour," as they settled comfortably. Marin exclaimed about the inescapable arrival of summer's heat, her voice carrying a hint of playful exasperation. Wakana, already imagining relief, immediately declared his post-journey plan to jump into a cooling shower. Sejuna, her gaze soft and slightly averted, offered a gentle smile as Wakana began to call out, "Kitagawa-gawa-san," prompting her to quietly respond, "HM." Her expression held a delicate, almost thoughtful curiosity. With a warm, genuine smile, Wakana clutched his suitcase and offered a heartfelt, "Thank you very much," to Marin. Marin, however, averted her gaze, a subtle wistfulness in her expression, as she seemed to quietly absorb his words. Reflecting on their intense collaboration, Marin mused, there was a lot to take in, as she looked at Wakana, exhausted from their efforts. Yet, seeing his gentle smile and feeling their shared sense of accomplishment, she concluded with a warm blush, but it was a good experience. There was a lot to take in. Marin mused, her thoughts still swirling from their intense collaboration. Wakana's hand remained in the frame, a silent reminder of the journey they had just shared. Wakana Gojo, hands clenching at his side, stumbled over his words, I had, before his face broke into a surprised, yet heartfelt, confession. With wide, earnest eyes and a faint blush, he finally declared, I had a lot of fun. Marin, a warm blush dusting her cheeks, beamed down at Wakana with a radiant smile, agreeing wholeheartedly, same here. Her eyes crinkled with genuine joy as she enthusiastically declared, "It was a total blast." "Thanks, Gojo Kun," a sentiment Wakana quietly reciprocated with a soft, gentle smile of his own. Marin, her radiant smile still glowing and eyes sparkling with joyful anticipation, looked eagerly at Wakana. "So what costume should we do next?" she asked, her passionate gaze already brimming with ideas for their next project. Marin's eyes, still sparkling with joyful anticipation, immediately turned to Wakana, proposing, "So what costume should we do next?" utterly astonishing the shy artisan. A flustered Wakana could only stammer, questioning if they weren't just doing one, but Marin merely scoffed with playful disbelief. "I never said just one. Did you seriously think we'd stop after one?" Marin, her eyes still sparkling but now widened in comical exasperation, gushed with her boundless passion, declaring, "I've got 50 number 1 characters." A beat later, a realization dawned on her, and she questioned with an open-mouthed expression, "Doesn't that defeat the whole point?" Wakana looked on, a sweat drop forming as he fretted, "What to do? What to do? Thing is, I want to wear Shizukuten more too." Meanwhile, Marin beamed, completely lost in her joyful ambition, declaring, "There's so many I want to do. I swear, it's like no matter how many bodies I have, it'll never be enough." Wakana let out a soft phew, of mingled relief and slight embarrassment, his gaze softening as he processed Marin's fervent request. A silence hung in the air, marking a moment of quiet contemplation for him. Marin, a subtle flush on her face, watched Wakana with a gentle gaze as he let out a soft sigh of relief. A quiet, warm feeling settled between them in the aftermath. Marin, a wide grin on her face, playfully teased Wakana, asking, "What's the eyes? Gojo Kun, you're looking kinda happy over there, huh?" Wakana, blushing deeply, stammered a denial, unable to articulate his flustered feelings as Marin pressed him further for an answer. Wakana, still flustered but resolute, declared with a blush, "I still have a lot to learn, but..." Marin met his earnest gaze with a soft smile, warmly affirming, "I look forward to working with you again." Marin burst into joyous laughter, her cheeks flushing as she exclaimed, "AHHAHA. Sure. Back at Siche." Her eyes crinkled with delight, clearly charmed by Wakana's earnest declaration and returning his fervent spirit. Wakana, realizing the practical benefits of a new tool, decided a dress form was the next essential step in their endeavor. Marin, always brimming with infectious enthusiasm, quickly agreed and immediately offered to procure one, her mind already buzzing with ideas about where to buy it. After Marin's infectious energy, a quiet weariness settled over Wakana Gojo, his eyes drooping as he began to doze, the subtle doze escaping him. Marin Kitagawa's wide eyes flickered with a sudden realization, perhaps finally noticing the weariness etched on Wakana's face. A subtle expression of surprise and dawning understanding crossed her features. Marin, noticing Wakana Gojo's profound exhaustion on the rattling train, gently offered, "Hey, if you're sleepy, go ahead and sleep." Wakana, leaning heavily against her, mumbled a quiet, "Okay. I'm sorry to crash on you like this." His weariness evident in his apologetic tone. Marin, her face alight with a grateful smile, turned to Wakana Gojo, exclaiming, "Thanks to you, Gojo-kun, that cosplay event was a ton of fun." Though still weary, Wakana listened intently, a soft, touched expression on his face as her heartfelt words resonated with him. Marin, her smile radiant, continued to address Wakana Gojo, marveling aloud how crazy awesome it was to see everyone enjoying themselves so much. A little further back, Sejuna listened with a subtle, pleased expression, her hands gently clasped in front of her. Wakana Gojo watched Sejuna Inui pose gracefully amidst the flurry of activity, as photographers and assistants worked around her. He felt an intense surge of inspiration, realizing that being surrounded by people doing what they love like that was totally next level, and just being in the same space got me super amped. Marin Kitagawa's warm smile softened, a faint blush dusting her cheeks as she earnestly declared her open-mindedness. "It can be a hobby or whatever, I'm not picky, but as a rule, I adore people who have a good time doing what they love." Her gaze, full of gentle passion, underscored the depth of her sincere appreciation for others' joy. Marin Kitagawa, her warm smile still radiating, continued her heartfelt declaration, emphasizing that while she wasn't picky about what people chose to do, her true admiration was for those who found joy in their passions. She simply adored watching others have a good time doing what they loved, her eyes sparkling with genuine understanding. Marin Kitagawa, her blush still evident as she poured out her heart, gazed earnestly at Wakana and added, "They just sparkle, you know?" Her voice held a note of pure, unbridled passion as she tried to convey the magic she felt. As the train carried her away, Marin, engrossed in her phone, had a sudden realization. "Oh hey, I didn't get to take any photos with other cosplayers." Undeterred, her gaze still fixed on the screen, she quickly resolved, "So we gotta take a alien next time for sure." Marin Kitagawa's face glowed with a pure, excited smile as she exclaimed about a drop-dead Gorg cosplayer, her passion evident. Beside her, Wakana Gojo gazed downwards, utterly captivated by Marin's natural beauty, wondering internally, how is being that pretty no filter, nada, even a thing? Marin Kitagawa's face truly glowed, her eyes sparkling with joyful tears as she beamed, completely immersed in the magnificent, drop-dead gorgeous cosplay that had so captivated her heart. The sheer happiness of embodying her passion was palpable in her radiant smile. Wakana Gojo closed his eyes, a tiny tear welling as Marin's overwhelming happiness washed over him. He could only manage a soft, completely speechless by the pure joy radiating from her. Still basking in the overwhelming joy of the day, Wakana Gojo quietly murmured, "You were really pretty, Kitagawa-san." Beside him, Marin gazed out the train window, a tranquil stillness in her expression as she absorbed the echoes of their shared, unforgettable experience. Marin's vibrant eyes, usually so full of energy, now shone with an intense, almost tearful joy. She gazed at Wakana, her heart brimming with a profound happiness that felt too immense to contain. Wakana Gojo, his face warming with a shy blush, gently finished his thought, "For very special things." He couldn't quite meet Marin's gaze, the unspoken feelings weighing heavily on his heart. Wakana Gojo, eyes closed in profound thought, struggled to articulate his deepest feelings, confessing, "It's sort of like I can't say it, unless I really, truly feel it." Marin Kitagawa watched him, her gaze soft and understanding, as he laid bare his heartfelt sincerity. A profound blush stained Marin Kitagawa's cheeks as her eyes widened in shock. Wakana's heartfelt words hung in the air, leaving her completely breathless. As the train rattled on, Marin Kitagawa could only stare in wide-eyed shock, a bewildered escaping her lips, as Wakana Gojo, after his heartfelt words, had completely fallen asleep right beside her, letting out a soft His confession hung unspoken in the air, leaving Marin utterly dumbfounded by his sudden slumber. Wakana's sincere words echoed in Marin Kitagawa's ears, plunging her entire world into a sudden, overwhelming darkness. Speechless and utterly bewildered, her mind struggled to grasp the depth of what she'd just heard. Still reeling from Marin's intense reaction, Wakana Gojo, holding a bottle, tentatively asked, "Are you sure?" A nervous sweat drop formed as his gaze conveyed his concern, quietly adding, "I can take care of it." With a radiant smile and flushed cheeks, Marin Kitagawa eagerly asserted, "Well, I'm the one who wore it. I should be the one to wash it, right?" Her sparkling eyes conveyed an overwhelming joy and earnestness, clearly thrilled at the chance to care for the precious cosplay. Still slightly overwhelmed by Marin's passion, Wakana Gojo shyly agreed with an "Oh, okay." Marin Kitagawa, facing the sink with a confident air, entrusted the task to him, saying, "All right. I'll leave it to you then." Their next step was decided. Let's start with the wig. Wakana Gojo diligently read the wig care instructions, guiding Marin Kitagawa to gently wash the netted wig. Marin, with a focused expression, carefully pressed the wig into the water and asked, "Like this?" prompting Wakana to remind her to avoid scrubbing or kneading to prevent damage. Wakana Gojo, meticulously following the guide, poured fabric softener into the flowing water, narrating the instruction aloud. First, mix the fabric softener into the water. His careful attention to every detail showed his quiet dedication to perfecting Marin's cherished wig. As Wakana Gojo concluded his instructions, detailing the final steps of rinsing, towel drying, and hanging the wig out of direct light, Marin Kitagawa's face broke into a radiant, joyous smile. That's it. That was a total cinch. I was thinking it was gonna be a major pain," she exclaimed, beaming with surprise and relief that the process wasn't nearly as daunting as she'd imagined. Wakana Gojo, ever the meticulous artisan, explained, "Let's hand wash the outfit too, so it doesn't develop sweat stains," before adding, "Oh, and it isn't good to wash the wig too much." Marin Kitagawa, utterly flustered by his earnest expertise and close proximity, could only blush deeply, her wide eyes sparkling as she mumbled to herself, feeling a distinct twinge. Sejuna, with a wide, almost exasperated smile, exclaimed, "Oh my gosh. Tell me you're joking. A little thing like that startled you so much, you collapsed." Her passenger, looking down with a sheepish sweat drop, silently agreed with Sejuna's relieved sentiment. "We were worried for nothing." Still reeling from Wakana's meticulous demands, Sejuna's spirited protest quickly deflated into a frustrated "K." The nervous tics around her dialogue bubble spoke volumes of her exasperated, yet resigned, agreement to his meticulous process. The clanging of the railroad crossing accompanied Sejuna's internal, humorous debate. It was ladies' underthings, why here? Didn't seem so lil to me." She tried to rationalize the situation, musing, "Just stockings, right? That's really nothing to get so worked up about." Grandpa Gojo listened with a weary patience as Sejuna, blushing brightly, enthusiastically recounted how she'd copied her favorite model's men's boxer briefs from a high school commercial. It was Sue Devayan, she declared, her eyes sparkling with nostalgic adoration for her past idol. Grandpa Gojo absorbed Sejuna's passionate recounting, a dawning realization crossing his face as he murmured, "Huh. Is that what this is?" Sejuna, steadfast in her conviction, continued earnestly, "Besides, Wakan's a boy too, you know?" "Yes, I'm sure of it." With a protective eye, Grandpa Gojo called out to Sejuna as she departed, "Don't overdo it. Now you've healed up, all right?" He then gently reminded her, "You be careful goin' home," receiving a soft in acknowledgement from the car. As Sejuna departed with a playful wink and a giggle, having planted a thought about a pair of stockings or two in Grandpa Gojo's mind, Wakana Gojo then burst through the door, beaming with a joyous "Welcome home" to a surprised Marin Kitagawa, who stood nearby, gently holding his arm as he presented the finished dress. "A pair or two, huh?" Grandpa Gojo mused thoughtfully to himself, a soft HRRM, escaping him as he processed Sejuna's teasing remark. Just then, a sliding door announced Wakana Gojo's familiar return. I'm back. With a sudden VM, Wakana Gojo held up a piece of fabric detailed with delicate lacing, his mind racing with possibilities. The intricate design, perhaps for a new cosplay request or an idea sparked by Sejuna, seemed to ignite a focused excitement in his movements. Amidst Wakana's focused work, Marin Kitagawa burst in with an almost explosive energy, her wide smile and sparkling eyes radiating warmth as she chirped, "Hi there. Sorry to drop in like this." Her sudden, cheerful presence was a vibrant splash of color in the quiet workshop. Marin's arrival was heralded by an explosive, breathless Wakana that echoed through the quiet workshop. Her urgent call, bursting with signature enthusiasm, left no doubt about her energetic presence. Wakana's grandfather let out a long, resigned sigh, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple as he finally grasped the situation. So, that's what you were up to. He muttered with eyes closed, admitting I just assumed. Still slightly bewildered by Marin's explosive entrance and the ensuing silence, Wakana Gojo could only manage a hesitant, as he watched. Beside him, Marin Kitagawa's calm gaze also held a silent question, her curiosity piqued by the unfolding scene. Wakana, still flustered but with a defensive resolve, firmly declared in his mind, I'm not doing anything I need to feel guilty about, as he knelt politely, while Marin sat nearby with a silent exclamation of surprise. From the side, Wakana's grandfather simply hummed, "HM? Yeah." His initial resolve began to waver as Wakana Gojo's artisan's eye fell upon the elaborate dress, hanging there silently. I know just from looking at that there, he thought, already discerning the formidable craftsmanship it represented. Wakana Gojo hung his head in remorse, apologizing to Marin Kitagawa for his outburst. Sorry about that, Marin-chan. I should not yelled. Marin, ever cheerful, simply beamed, hands waving in dismissal, no worries. You're good. Marin's enthusiastic voice declared, you did a heck of a job on that, her words a warm balm after Wakana's earlier remorse. Wakana's grandfather, arms crossed, then offered his own quiet approval, his gaze soft with pride as he affirmed, a fine piece you've made there. Still humble despite Marin's earlier enthusiasm, Wakana Gojo gazed away, murmuring, well, it's got plenty of rough spots all over. Yet, his grandfather, beaming proudly, smiled up at him, affirming, I think, looks like a first-rate creation to me. Wakana Gojo's grandfather confessed, with a sheepish chuckle, that the force of habit nearly made him use glue on the garment. Wakana nodded in understanding as his grandfather mused, ain't anything like doll clothes, a quiet acknowledgement of his grandson's evolving craft. Marin Kitagawa, her eyes intently scanning Wakana's design, meticulously pointed out details she hadn't been sure about, saying, right. Also, see this and this here? I wasn't sure what to do. As her rapid-fire insights flowed, realizing, that's what I should have done, Wakana Gojo could only stare, utterly bewildered, stammering a confused Marin Kitagawa's face burned crimson as her heart raced, the sudden, overwhelming rush of emotion causing her to gasp, crap. Whoa. With eyes wide and glistening, she finally admitted the powerful truth to herself. I've fallen for Gojo-kun so hard. Wakana Gojo's eyes closed in quiet contemplation, a startling realization blossoming in his mind. No way. No how? So I like a lot? Is this WV? Lols. The shy artisan processed the profound, unexpected feelings stirring within him. Wakana Gojo's head tilted back slightly, his lips subtly parted as if to catch a breath, as the realization hit him. Around him, soft, shimmering hearts signaled the unexpected depth of emotions now stirring within his quiet world. Marin Kitagawa was utterly overwhelmed, her face burning crimson as she buried it in her hands, her heart pounding with the realization she was in love with Gojo-kun. Wakana Gojo and his grandfather could only gaze back, wide-eyed and stunned by her passionate, unexpected outburst. Marin Kitagawa, her cheeks a burning crimson, covered her face with her hands, a soft grumble escaping her as she was completely overwhelmed by the moment. Her eyes squeezed shut, unable to hide the depth of her shyness. Marin Kitagawa's eyes widened in utter shock, her cheeks aflame with crimson as she pressed her hands to her face, completely overwhelmed. Despite her visible fluster and the sweat on her brow, a tiny, bewildered smile played on her lips. Still flushed from her recent embarrassment, Marin stammered an awkward "Ah ha ha ha," while Wakana, ever gentle, looked at her with a kind smile and asked, "Are you hungry?" This simple question only deepened Marin's mortification, leaving her internally screaming, "So dead is what I am." As the clock face silently confirmed the hour, Wakana Gojo's quiet voice broke the lingering tension. "It is about that time, huh?" he murmured, marking a gentle shift from Marin's earlier embarrassment. With a warm, friendly smile, Wakana's grandfather extended an unexpected invitation, asking Marin, "Wanna eat with us before you head home, Marin-chan?" Caught completely off guard, Marin Kitagawa could only stare in wide-eyed surprise, a small escaping her lips. A comforting array of home-cooked dishes filled the table, eliciting a joyful, "Thanks for the food," from Marin. Her enthusiastic exclamation echoed her genuine appreciation for the warm hospitality and delicious meal laid out before her. Marin enthusiastically dug into the comforting meal, a happy munch, escaping her lips as she savored each delicious bite. The simple home-cooked dishes clearly brought her immense joy. With cheeks flushed and eyes sparkling, Marin was utterly swept away by the deliciousness, letting out an ecstatic, muffled from the meal. Her entire being seemed to beam with pure, unadulterated joy, radiating happiness with every savory bite. Marin, practically vibrating with delight, lavished Wakana Gojo with praise, screaming, "Why, and hailing him as a god for his delicious cooking. Wakana, initially surprised by his grandfather's casual admission of cooking prowess, felt a flicker of kinship, murmuring, "For real. You're just like me," before his gaze landed on Marin's unbounded enthusiasm, prompting a confused "HUH." Marin continued, explaining that after her mother passed and her father was transferred, she now lived alone, which elicited a sorrowful "Marin, I'm sorry," from Wakana. Despite the heavy topic, Marin quickly shifted, her eyes sparkling as she focused on her meal, exclaiming, "Ooh, the kabocha's delish too. So sweet." Marin casually revealed that despite her attempts to cook, her usual diet was a shocking mountain of convenience store food, often consisting entirely of an enormous natto, frozen fried rice, frozen fried chicken, and sausage meal. Wakana and his grandfather stared in utter disbelief and palpable concern, unable to process her incredibly rough eating habits. Flushing slightly, Marin quickly added, "I can cook, more or less, and stuff," as if to reassure him. Below, Wakana could only stare in wide-eyed distress, a cold sweat breaking out as her words painted a worrying picture. Concern etched across his face. Wakana's grandfather still couldn't believe Marin's diet, anxiously asking if her body hadn't revolted or anything. Marin, unfazed, simply flashed a confident smile, assuring him, "Nope. I'm the picture of health." With a proud wink and a confident peace sign, Marin playfully ate her chopsticks, reassuringly stating, "I drink milk and eat yogurt every day, so it's ale good." Her rosy cheeks added a touch of genuine earnestness to her bold claim. Wakana's grandfather, still concerned about Marin's eating habits, insisted, "Marin-chan, I insist you come round and eat with us from now on," before seeking Wakana's agreement. As Wakana quietly uttered, "Yeah," Marin burst into delighted cheers of "Seriously. Yay" at the kind invitation. Marin, her long blonde hair flowing, turned back over her shoulder at the station entrance, her eyes sparkling as she flashed a radiant smile at Wakana. "Thanks for walking me to the station, Gojo-kun," she cheerfully called out, her genuine warmth filling the air as she clutched her bag. Wakana, facing away with his shoulders slightly slumped, murmured his apologies, "No problem. I'm sorry we kept you so late." Marin, however, brightly dismissed his concern, turning to face him with an open, reassuring posture. "Don't worry about it. Dinner was delish. I had fun talking with your grandpa too," she affirmed, her cheerful words putting his anxious heart at ease. Marin's soft call of "Gojo-kun" made Wakana pause, his eyes wide with surprise as he looked up. A nervous flutter passed through him as he tentatively responded, "Yes." Marin's cheeks burned crimson and her eyes glistened, though her voice held a soft urgency as she looked up at Wakana and quickly said, "See why. Tomorrow. 'Kay? Laters." Despite her obvious fluster, her gaze held a tender plea, ensuring their next meeting. With a gentle smile and eyes softened with understanding, Wakana Gojo met Marin's gaze directly. Sure, he responded softly, his simple word carrying a quiet warmth that promised his full support. After Marin's heartfelt admission, the rhythmic katunk and kadunk of the train filled the silence, giving Wakana Gojo a moment to process. Despite his calm exterior, his mind was racing, an honest "Huh? I so don't get this," reflecting his genuine attempt to fully comprehend the depth of Marin's feelings. Despite telling herself it was a totally normal conversation, Marin Kitagawa felt a rush of weird butterflies and flushed cheeks, betraying her hidden fluster. Across from her, Wakana Gojo tried to assure himself he was not doing anything I need to feel guilty about, but his pensive gaze and the train's continued katunk and kadunk implied a deeper uncertainty. Marin, her cheeks still flushed after her heartfelt admission, leaned her head back against the train door with a soft bonk, her gaze cast downward. She could only mumble, "Yeah, well, maybe you should be," as her embarrassment and overwhelming feelings swirled within her. Amidst the train's rhythmic katunk and kadunk, Marin Kitagawa's thoughts continued to tumble, her mind trying to process the intensity of her recent confession. Could try saying that, or something. She mused internally, perhaps practicing her words for a future moment, or simply trying to make sense of her overwhelming feelings. The train's rumble resonated, a deep echo to the whirlwind still stirring within Marin Kitagawa's heart. With a soft fwssh of air, the doors opened, but Marin remained lost in the potent emotions of her confession. The sudden downpour caught Kaoru Gojo off guard, eliciting a resigned, "The minute I decide to go out, this is what I get," as he observed the relentless rain from inside. Despite the deluge, Marin Kitagawa pressed on towards the Gojo doll shop, finally letting out a weary phew. As she reached its shelter, her thoughts still buzzing from the journey. Caught unexpectedly in the sudden downpour, Marin Kitagawa was instantly drenched, the relentless splash of rain plastering her uniform and hair to her body as she instinctively raised an arm. The sliding door revealed Kaoru Gojo, his face etched with worry as he took in the sight before him. "You okay there, young lady?" he exclaimed, his voice laced with concern for the drenched Marin Kitagawa. Caught fully in the sudden rain, Marin Kitagawa stood utterly drenched, her school uniform clinging to her frame as the fwssh of the sliding door echoed. A quiet of surprise or slight mortification escaped her as she instinctively touched a wet strand of hair, her gaze a little wide.